Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by your local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Harvey L. Hall.
Good evening and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time to be present tonight. I want to offer a special welcome to all of the mayor's candidates that are here in the audience for the June 7th election. It's not that far away, but we certainly wish you all well and success with that election. At this time, I'd like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Hall.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Here.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Here.
Councilmember Weir.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Sullivan. Here. Councilmember Parlier.
Here. At this time, I would like us all to stand for the invocation, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance by Amanda Gonzalez, first grade student at Colonel Nichols Elementary School. And I'll be providing the invocation this evening. Loving and gracious God, you are the giver of all good gifts. We thank you tonight for all your blessings, for the successful outcomes of our council meetings, both past and those to come, and for each one of our council members, both for their participation and their support every day as they listen and work to solve problems in our city. Tonight, we ask that you keep blessing us abundantly as we continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with us in our discussions and help us to be wise in the decisions we make for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. Give us insight to lead with integrity, that our decisions may reflect what is right and good. Keep us from short-sightedness and pettiness. Help us to make decisions that are for the good for all and guard us from blind self-interest. Tonight we take special time to remember and pray for those men and women who keep us safe. Watch over all of our policemen and policewomen and law enforcement officers. Keep them from harm in the performance of their duties to stop crime, robberies, riots, and violence. Help them to keep our streets and homes safe, both day and night. We commit them to our loving care. Help us to conduct our meeting with peace and goodwill to those who have joined with us this evening. Moreover, above all, may we bring honor to you, the God who rules our lives. Amen.
Good evening. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand tall and face the flag. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Before we proceed, I request that all cellular telephones and communication devices be silenced. Pursuant to City Council policy, council members are prohibited from sending or receiving electronic communications during the meeting, and we request the same from our audience. For safety reasons, as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chambers. Also, please be courteous in the use of any still cameras and video equipment. Audience applause is allowed during the presentation portion of the meeting, but it is not permissible at any other time during the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. This evening, I'd like to recognize the students that are here from Cal State at the Cal State Political Science class. Thank you for your attendance this evening. I certainly hope that tonight's meeting will be an informative one for all of you, and you're welcome to come back and attend a meeting at any time. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Under presentations, 4A, presentation by Mayor Hall of a proclamation to Public Works Director Nick Fidler declaring May 15 through the 21st National Public Works Week.
Each day, the Public Works Department of the city does hundreds and hundreds of outstanding deeds of service. And tonight, I hope to recognize them for all of this good work that they do, and I hope that the public will recognize and continually appreciate the effort that they do. You know, soon we will be in 100-degree temperatures, and you'll see orange shirts out on the side of the highway, on the side of the streets, doing their work and doing it with smiles on their faces. The other day I came to work and a whole group was out on Trucks and Extension, and when I stopped for the stop sign, they all stood up and waved because they knew the mayor was coming to work, and they were happy to put a smile on their faces, and so was I for them. So let me offer the following proclamation. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings and solid waste collection, and the health, safety, and comfort of this city greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. And whereas the City of Bakersfield Public Works Department was recognized as an accredited public works agency by the American Public Works Association on October 12, 2015. And APWA recognizes agencies for their leadership in the field of public works and their dedication to continuous improvement in search of excellence in government service to the public. And staff of the Public Works Department is proud to serve the community of Bakersfield. Therefore, I, Harvey L. Hall, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim May 15 through 21, 2016 as National Public Works Week in our city, and urge all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated at Bakersfield, California, this 18th day of May 2016, signed Harvey L. Hall, Mayor, City of Bakersfield. Joining me at the podium is Nick Fidler, the Director of Public Works for the city.
Honorable Mayor and council members, it is truly an honor to accept this proclamation on behalf of all the men and women providing public works services for our community. I'd also like to add I'm accepting this on behalf of the Kern branch for the Central Valley American Public Works Association. I am the current president of the Kern branch, and so I again appreciate the acknowledgement from the council and the mayor. The Kern branch is responsible for several activities within our community. We do a lot of outreach to both the high schools and to the colleges to ensure that we have a strong workforce in the future. In fact, I just got back a couple weeks ago from meeting with Bakersfield College and indicating some of the services that are needed for our community. So the American Public Works Association is a membership of both agencies and private consultants that are reaching out to the community to make our community a better place. Thank you.
Mayor, the next presentation is of a certificate of appreciation to Barbara Swanson and Bill Winter, homeowner honorees.
One of you can stand on one side and the other on the other, okay? Last meeting, we recognized the outstanding business of the quarter, and today we recognize the outstanding property owners of the quarter. And I was told that I needed to make sure that there were two property owners of this group, Ms. Swanson and Mr. Winter. And so we certainly congratulate them and thank you for this achievement and having pride in your community by making sure that your yard looks the best in the city for the quarter. That's what it all means. And so I present to you now this plaque in recognition of your yard of the quarter.
Thank you.
Come on over, let's get a picture real quick.
Thank you, Amber.
Hey, you can say, you want to say something?
Just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, the next item is a presentation of certificates of appreciation to Liberty High School students Nicole Bernal, Savannah Gonzalez, and Emily Van Fossen, originators of the Backing the Blue project.
It's not often that I have the opportunity to recognize three outstanding young people from our community and high school students that feel like there's an absolute need to show support for the Bakersfield Police Department. And as a result, the Backing the Blue project is something that these three ladies have put together. They had a special event the other night when we opened up the new Rabobank fountain area. Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Sullivan, and Councilmember Parlier were present to give their blessing to this wonderful effort. And so tonight I'm here to provide each of these ladies a certificate of appreciation, which is presented to Emily Van Fossen in recognition of your role in organizing and implementing the Backing the Blue project to support and encourage our local law enforcement community. Dated the 18th day of May 2016 and signed Harvey L. Hall, Mayor, City of Bakersfield. And I have a certificate for each one of the ladies that reads the same, and they were to choose a spokesperson for them tonight to make comments. So whichever one you chose, step up. I may get these wrong, but you know my intent, okay? So go ahead.
Hello, my name is Savannah Gonzalez. 3 of us are seniors at Liberty High School, and we would just like to thank all of you for supporting us, especially Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Sullivan, and Councilmember Parlier. The 3 of you supported us right from the get-go, and we appreciate it. We knew without you all in the city, without your approval, we would not have been able to fulfill our mission. So I invite all of you here to take a trip down to Rabobank Arena and down Chester Avenue. We have some beautiful lights hung up that honor our fallen officers as well as those who are still standing. Our mission was to remind the community to support our local law enforcement and to value them for the people they are and for the duties they are providing us. Their intent is good, and they are striving to protect and to serve our community. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public statements.
At this time, we will receive public statements. All statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per topic. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, provide it to the city clerk, who will then provide copies to the city council. If you are here to speak on consent calendar hearing items 9A and 9B or hearings items 10A, this is not the time for you to speak. Members of the audience are asked to avoid engaging in any behavior that disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting. Please do not criticize or impugn the mayor, city council, or any member of the staff or the audience. The city council is very interested and concerned with your issues. Due to the public notice requirements of the Brown Act, the city council cannot take action when an item is not on the agenda. The city council can, however, refer your matter to committee or request that staff contact you. Madam Clerk, please call the first public speaker.
Mayor, we have 3 speakers this evening. The first is Curtis Bingham regarding Blessed City and law enforcement.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, and the board, Curtis James Bingham, Sr., Street Evangelist for our Lord and Savior, God Almighty Jesus Christ. And the first thing I'd like to say, I thank you guys for allowing the Lord to be here at these meetings. And I feel that's one reason why our city succeeds, because when you're accepting the Lord, He has the way of accepting you. And I also like to say to you, when I say the word beauty, that would go to you, Mayor Hall, for what you have done and where you have stood up. And I'm seeing all these people running. You done made being a mayor so popular. You got everybody want to try to be it. It might take all of them to do what you done done. You done yours fair and square. I would just like to see somebody say, I want to step in the shoes of the mayor, not try to top him or beat him, because when a good man does something good, you don't want to do that. You want to jump in his shoes and just try to add to it with your own character and personality. So it'd be nice to see some of them say that. And then I pray that those that's running for mayor, you're going to have to know how to work with the law, because that's extremely, extremely important. And I'd like to see some of them would say, how do you feel about that? Then I also would like to say this. The Lord say, a servant is worthy of his hire. Everybody wonders, should the board members be paid? Well, you know, a man can sit up and say a couple words, and he'll get $1 million for it based on what he said. We got a board that's been making decisions for the people all year long, and everybody's wondering, should they be paid or not? Well, we got to look at it like the Lord says, a servant is worthy of their hire, so I'll leave it like that, you know, because you guys take some tough issues. And then I also would like to say, sometimes people see up and down, up and down, up and down. Well, when money happens and don't come in that's expected to come in, sometimes it can make it look like we up and down. So the Lord would have the people to know it's not in you guys' control how the money's going to come in that you're expecting to come in. So when you give a group something, got to take it back, your wards might wonder what's happening here. They promise us this and that. Well, it's not your fault whatsoever. And then the Lord said one time he healed 10 leopards. Leopards were banned from the community, and only one came back and gave thanks. So I'm giving thanks tonight because I've came down here many times, and my biggest concern is the law. That's number one, because without it, we ain't making it. And Chief Williamson has done such an outstanding job at standing in there, not just being chief, but dealing with the issues. And so I wanted to just give you guys thanks for that. And the little brother that goes along with what I beg to find would be the fire department. from what I'm reading and seeing, you guys have been very, very fair with them. And I just pray when they continue to ask, whatever they continue to ask, we'll give it to them. Because I got to say this, it will not get any better on this earth ever until the Lord reigns again. Because they have issues that the society does not count that shows the evil that's taking place. And so the only thing the Lord put here for us to keep us safe is the law. So we have to really recognize what a outstanding chief we have willing to stand in and fight these issues. Every crime that takes place, you got to remember, it's not the law is not responsible whatsoever. You don't know what the people are going to do. You know, we got all these murders going on right now. They out there doing a good job. You don't know what the crime a person is going to do. And so if I gave the chief $1 million a year, and I gave our city manager and I gave our city attorney $1 million a year, the money wouldn't matter to me. What matters to me, will you please and can you continue to do the job you're doing? Because it's tough. It's tough when your mind is running all the time and you got new issues. City manager have them, city attorney have them, the chief have them, you guys have them too, but they have them more. So I pray we just recognize what we got. Keep blessing your foundation until the money come back right. You always hold the foundation in to keep things going till the money come. And so since we got this situation, I thank you guys very much for blessing Bakersfield's Finest and his little brother, the fire department. And you got to keep doing that. If you don't do nothing else, you got to do that, because without them, ain't nothing working. Nothing ain't working. So I just pray you guys recognize, not just this week, but all year long, how important the law is. And I like to say, the Lord says some entertain angels unaware, and you have one in this room right now, and that will be Council Sullivan. So I pray God bless you guys. Please remember that the Lord said the servant is worthy of his hire. So don't feel funny about somebody want to bless you for doing your job, because your issues are very important. In the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I pray you guys just remember as the Lord would have us to do, to keep you guys in prayer as he would have us to. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public speaker.
Jim Fortson regarding adult entertainment.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed.
My name is Jim Fortson, and kind of got a subject that probably will raise eyebrows, if nothing else. A few weeks back, I was driving around town here, and I noticed there were signs in various places throughout the town, and it was advertising the opening of Hustler Hollywood. And as I was driving, I kept thinking, you know, Bakersfield needs another adult entertainment place, about like a fish needs a bicycle. And so, I thought, well, what can I do about it? And I thought, well, individually, probably not much. And so I kind of let myself off the hook of doing anything because I'm just me. But there was a little voice in the back of my head saying, yeah, but you don't have your couch anchoring you to your front room. Get up and do something. Every time the news comes on, I caught myself talking back to the TV in dismay with the things that were going on. And that's about as far as it ever got. So the opening night of Hustler Hollywood was done with some fanfare. I don't want to say a lot, but some. Well, there was a bald-headed old man with a picket sign in his hand, and that was me. And as I was walking up and down there, I felt kind of foolish for a little bit, and there were jeers and laughter, and what's this guy doing? And as I continued to walk, pretty soon I'd hear people go by honking their horn and giving me one of these. I don't know if they were shaking their fist or giving me a way to go. I'm not sure, but I'll take the plus side of that. Anyhow, so I at the end of the evening, I packed up my little picket sign and looked around, and Hustler Hollywood was still open and things were still going on as they were. So I thought, there's other places in this town, and I'm just going to let my voice, my single voice, be heard. And since that time, I've picketed every one of the adult entertainment establishments here in Bakersfield. Why? Because common sense tells me that it's wrong. What they're doing is just wrong. I have 10 grandkids, and I'm a pretty optimistic guy. Ordinarily, I look at life maybe through rose-colored glasses, but as I considered the world that they were going to be inheriting, I got a little pessimistic. And I said, you know, for once in my life, I don't feel too secure about the situation that I'm going to be handing off to them. And the least I can do is give them a reference point for their life that at least Grandpa did something. He stood up and let his voice be heard. And that's why I'm here tonight. You know, back in the mid-'70s, there were a series of decisions handed down by the Supreme Court.
Mr. Fortson, I've got to ask you to please bring your statement to a close.
Okay. In that decision by the Supreme Court, they said it was up to the local community to set their own moral standards. It's been adjudicated, it's been tried in court, it's been successful. It's up to us, not you, it's up to us as a community to set the moral standards. The moral standards of Fresno may not be the moral standards of Bakersfield. It's up to us to draw the line on what's going to be acceptable in our community, where our kids and our wives shop and where we live. Take that under consideration. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public speaker.
Mayor, the last speaker is Blair Budai regarding Back the Badge lighting.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Good evening, Mayor Hall, council members. I'm Blair Budai, and took part in the Back the Blue and the blue lighting ceremony, which I was honored to be a part of, thanks to these ladies and their enthusiasm. Really want to thank you and applaud you for recognizing our law enforcement. It was just so important in this time, and to recognize those that what they do in serving the community and promoting peace. And I really believe that's what they do. And it's not always that they're dealt with peace, but that's what they're trying to promote and protect, and even at great personal sacrifice. So I want to thank the council members, especially Councilmember Parlier, Sullivan, and Smith, and all that it took to bring this from a little high school project to TV, radio, something the city that the city embraced and made it possible to get the message out. And with the ribbons, which you didn't mention, were the ribbons up and down Chester Avenue, and from Truxton, from the Rabobank to City Hall, as well as the blue lights. And if you have an opportunity to see that it was a lot to bring together in such a short time, and to fund it, and to get the lighting, the electrical that the city helped promote and change the timers, and then the fountain, which wasn't really made mention of, but to bring this ugly gate that's around this fountain that was there Monday morning, and then that afternoon it was beautiful, and had the ceremony in the light of day when you couldn't see the lights. So it took a lot for but to make that happen, I really want to give you thanks, and thank you for the honor of being a part of it.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item, please.
Consent calendar items 8A through 8N for approval.
Vice Mayor Hanson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. The council member wish to remove an item due to a conflict of interest? Seeing none, the city council member wish to remove an item for separate consideration? Seeing none. By the way, that's a world record for our group. I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar items 8A through 8A and Norbert.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 9, consent calendar public hearings, items 9A and 9B for approval.
It is now time for consent calendar hearings. The purpose of this section is to vote on all of the items listed under consent calendar hearings in one motion without further comment. If anyone wishes to speak on any of these hearing items listed, the item must be removed from this portion of the agenda. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the regular public hearing portion of the meeting. At this time, I will open consent calendar public hearing items 9A and 9B and ask if there is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any of these items. Does any council member wish to speak or remove an item from the consent calendar hearings? At this time, consent calendar hearing, public hearing, items 9A and 9B are now closed. Vice Mayor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Motion to approve consent calendar public hearing items 9A and 9B as in boy.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Next item, please.
Item 10, hearings.
Before I open the public hearing portion of our meeting, I want to state the presentation time policy. Each side will be allowed 15 minutes. It is 15 minutes for all speakers. Therefore, it is important that you identify yourself and make your statement quickly so that others may speak. We will hear statements from those opposed to the staff recommendation first, then we will hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the staff recommendation. If there is testimony from each side, a five-minute rebuttal period will be allowed. You will notice a clock on the wall behind me which indicates 15 minutes. Please step to the microphone and identify yourself. At 14 minutes, a yellow light will come on, and at the end of 15 minutes, a red light will flash indicating your time is up and to quickly end your statement. You may pose questions during your statement, but they will not be answered until the public hearing is closed. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, provide it to the city clerk, who will then provide the copies to the city council. Again, please be courteous to others who wish to speak. Unless there is an approval by the majority of the city council, there is a strict 15-minute time limit for all those in favor or in opposition to the staff's recommendation. So please be precise and do not repeat the remarks of the previous speakers. Madam Clerk, please read the first public hearing item.
Item 10A, public hearing to consider a resolution certifying the 2016 final environmental impact report for and approving the 24th Street Improvement Project. A staff memorandum has been received transmitting responses to email correspondence from Judith Harriman, Ann Seidel, and Wayne Minner. Additional correspondence has been received from Pareto Planning and Environmental Services, Judith Harneman, Vanessa Van Gale, and Darlene Van Gale, Anthony Ansalbaher, and Robert Braley.
Ms. Gennaro, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I have some introductory comments on the topic, and then I'll be turning the topic over to Mr. Fiddler for some comments before the public hearing is opened. Council certified the original environmental impact report for the 24th Street widening project in February of 2014. A lawsuit was filed against the city on March 17, 2014, alleging that that environmental impact report was inadequate in multiple areas. The court ultimately ruled that the environmental impact report had two deficiencies, namely, number one, that the EIR failed to include cul-de-sacs in the project description, and number two, that the EIR failed to adequately explain why 8 potentially identified feasible alternatives were not selected for further study as project alternatives. As you know, the ruling required the City Council to decertify the environmental impact report and to also repeal the project's approval. You did that, as a council in September of 2015. The court also ordered the city to go back and to provide an analysis and address the deficiencies that I stated. This has been done in the form of a recirculated draft EIR, and that document was made available to the public on January the 11th, 2016, and your Planning Commission held a hearing, a public hearing, later in the month of January of 2016, in which it accepted comments on that document. I think it's important tonight to recognize a couple of factors. First, the recirculated draft EIR, which led to the final EIR before you tonight and for your consideration, it primarily addresses the deficiencies ordered by the court and the associated issues. Pursuant to CEQA, the city recirculated for public review only those portions of the document that were revised to address the deficiencies. And in accordance with CEQA, the city requested that the public limit their comments to those recirculated portions. Finally, and in accordance with CEQA, the city responded to only those comments related to the revised portions in the final EIR. The final EIR, which you have in front of you, is essentially the same as the recirculated draft environmental impact report, with the exception that it contains the responses to the public comments and some minor text changes. So tonight, as the clerk indicated, it's the time and the place for the public hearing and for you to consider as a council certification of the final environmental impact report and approval of the project. I would like to know that there is a court reporter here tonight. She's sitting to your left. She is here in the event that a supplemental record may need to be provided to the court. And so I would ask not only the council, but any members of the public that come forward to the microphone, that you speak slowly, that you announce your name before you begin to speak, and you speak again slowly and not on top of one another so that our court reporter can accurately transcribe that record for the court. And with that, Mayor and Council, I will turn it over to Mr. Fiddler, who I think has also some brief comments and a PowerPoint.
Madam Clerk, can you please bring on the screen? Honorable Mayor and council members, tonight before you, you'll be providing the CEQA public hearing as discussed by Ms. Gennaro. As Ms. Gennaro has indicated, the City of Bakersfield prepared the recirculated draft environmental impact report, RDEIR, for the 24th Street Improvement Project in response to the Superior Court's ruling. The RDEIR was circulated for public review from January 11, 2016 to February 25, 2016. A public hearing was held before the Planning Commission on January 21, 2016. As part of community input, the city received written comments via letters and emails, oral testimony at the public hearing before the Planning Commission, and signed petitions from 120 people. 84 people, representing 70% of the submissions, were in support of the project. 14 people, representing 12% of submissions, were opposed to the project, with the remaining 22 people, representing 18% of the submission, were neutral. The project involves 24th Street from west of State Route 99 to 0.2 miles east of M Street. Improvements include adding an auxiliary lane on northbound State Route 99, expanding the Oak and 24th Street intersection, widening 24th Street to 6 lanes between Olive Street and D Street, and widening the 23rd, 24th couplet to 8 lanes from D Street to M Street. The purpose of the revised draft environmental impact report, per the Superior Court's direction, the city was to evaluate 6 proposed cul-de-sacs as part of the project and their potential impacts on historic districts south of 24th Street. In addition, let's provide additional evaluation of 8 alternatives considered but eliminated in the final environmental impact report, FEIR, using the final criteria: environmental impacts, project objectives, feasibility, and reasonableness. To reiterate what Ms. Gennaro had indicated earlier, the RDEIR does not deal with the other areas of the original environmental document that were not challenged in the CEQA lawsuit, or areas that the court ruled were adequately handled. Finding summary: the 6 added cul-de-sacs were found to: 1, have no significant adverse effects on the visual environment along the 24th Street alignment; 2, not have a significant adverse impact on historic resources under CEQA; 3, not require additional mitigation; and finally, not result in substantial changes to the project's impacts on environmental resources. No additional mitigation measures have been proposed, and widening 24th Street to the north remains the recommended project. Before you, you see a schedule, a timeline of events tracking back to April 2011, or April 11, 2008, and up to today, May 18, 2016. Certification of the final environmental impact report. A notice of availability of the 2016 final environmental impact report and notice of public hearing was published in the Bakersfield Californian and El Popular newspapers on May 6, 2016. The notice was also sent to property owners within the project area. We held a public hearing for the 2016 final environmental impact report during the May 18th City Council meeting, and request the City Council to consider certifying the FEIR and approving the recommended project. That completes my portion of the presentation.
As we proceed, I want to remind everyone that there is a 15-minute time limit for those in opposition or in favor of the staff recommendation. It will be my intention to attempt to allow everyone to speak who wishes to. But I want to remind you, too, that there are a number of people who wish to speak tonight, and for those of you that are going to speak, remember not to repeat the remarks of the previous speaker so that I can honor everyone's request to speak. At this time, I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the staff recommendation. Before you come to the podium, I want to know how many of you are going to speak in opposition to the staff recommendation. Please raise your hand. Okay. Help me out here with the time. So if you know that you're going to speak in opposition, please stand over here or over here so that we can expediently get you to the podium. Please come forward. Please identify yourself, and I ask also that you give your address as well.
Sure, thank you. My name is Jamie Hall. I'm a partner with Channel Law Group. My address is 8200 Wilshire Boulevard, Suite 300, Beverly Hills, California, 90211. I'm here tonight with my law partner, Julian Quattlebaum, and we're representing Citizens Against the 24th Street Widening Project. As you know, this is the organization that challenged the original approval and the environmental impact report for the project, and that was a legal challenge brought under the California Environmental Quality Act, and it was filed in Kern County Superior Court. So we're here today because the court ordered the city to undertake another environmental review for the project. However, the recirculated draft environmental impact report, or RDEIR, that's what we call it, remains severely flawed. Unfortunately, it appears that the city has pursued the task before them as mere busy work, simply putting down more words on paper to justify the decision to pursue the project as originally designed. But we should be very clear here. This is not enough to satisfy the Superior Court judge's directive. I'm concerned that you haven't fully understood exactly what Judge Twiselman said was the task. So I took the liberty to review the transcript from the court proceeding in full prior to the hearing. And one of the things that I want to point out that I don't think has been pointed out is that the issue of whether or not the city looked at a reasonable range of alternatives has yet to be decided. Judge Twiselman is known for finding an error, telling someone to go fix the error, but not dealing with the entire situation, saying that you go fix that error, you come back to me, and we'll see whether or not you still have a flaw. And he specifically reserved the right to determine whether or not a reasonable range of alternatives had been reviewed by the city. And that's really critical. My client offered a variety of alternatives to the project, including, for example, signal synchronization and restriping of 24th Street. There's also a variety of hybrid options that the city could pursue. We've retained a CEQA expert this time around, Dr. Susan O'Carroll with Pareto Planning. Dr. O'Carroll has over 20 years of environmental experience. She's here tonight. She's going to speak right after me. She obtained her PhD from USC, and she actually wrote her thesis on CEQA. And in addition to reviewing hundreds of EIR documents, she's actually trained environmental professionals about how to comply with CEQA. So everyone should know that, that our expert is someone who has credentials. Dr. O'Carroll submitted a lengthy report outlining a variety of alternatives to this project. She also submitted a lengthy response to the final environmental impact report, which you should all have. Now, I know that I'm an attorney, and you know that, and I am, trained to advocate for my client. So everything that I'm saying, I suspect you're taking with a grain of salt, and I respect that. But it doesn't take a law degree to come to the conclusion that there are many unanswered questions and unexplored options that Dr. O'Carroll pointed out in her reports. CEQA requires that you analyze these alternatives. This is all the more important in this case because this is a big project with big impacts. We're talking about the destruction of 23 homes, including several which are contributors to a historical district. This isn't a small project. This is a big project. This is the kind of project that CEQA was designed for. Now, there's a lot of people associated with this project that the city has retained. We have environmental consultants, big companies, outside counsel, landscape engineers, all sorts of people. But at the end of the day, you're the one that makes this decision. You. So I think it's really important that we remember this. It's important to read these documents. I know they're technical, they're lengthy, but that's what your task is tonight. And you have dice in your hands right now. And I'm being very honest with you, and I'm telling you, you can roll the dice and just follow the staff direction and say, we'll see what happens. Or you can take this seriously, and you can look at what our expert has said are unanswered and unexplored questions and options and choose not to certify this document. And finally, I just want to say that our clients have always remained open to figuring out a way to work with the city's desire to make this a better project. But unfortunately, we just haven't received any reciprocation. We still remain open to this option, but we need you to work with us. Thank you.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and give us your address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Susan O'Carroll. I'm with Pareto Planning and Environmental Services. My address is 1411 West Clark in Burbank, California. and I'm the CEQA consultant that Mr. Hall referred to. I've prepared comment letters on both the RDEIR and the FEIR for your consideration. I just wanted to say the following in addition. As an EIR consultant, I see an EIR as a problem-solving document, and I hope that that's the case with all environmental consultants. The first question is, what are the environmental impacts of a project? The second question is, how do you reduce them or eliminate them? And under CEQA, there are two main ways to do that. The first is through mitigation, and the second is through the design of alternatives. And in developing alternatives, the focus is typically on how much would the project need to be modified in order to change or reduce the unmitigatable impacts of a project to get them down to less than significant. The proposed project results in the destruction of 23 homes and impacts to historic districts. These impacts are largely due to the fact that you have a 110-foot right-of-way. So a logical question would be, how much would the right-of-way need to be reduced in order to eliminate these impacts? Would a 100-foot right-of-way or a 90-foot right-of-way or an 88-foot right-of-way or restriping the existing 82.5-foot right-of-way coupled potentially with exempting abutting homes from off-street parking requirements eliminate the impacts of the project and achieve most of the basic objectives? Unfortunately, this FEIR doesn't answer that question. If you don't like the restriping alternatives suggested by the public, a 90-foot right-of-way would give you a 10-foot stripe median, 2 inside 11-foot lanes, an outside 14-foot lane, and 4-foot ADA compliant sidewalks. That kind of right-of-way could be tapered at intersections to allow for turning movements, and reduced in areas where you want to try to keep the homes. So does reducing the proposed right-of-way by 10 feet or 20 feet meet the project objectives and also eliminate key impacts? If not, could a reduction be coupled with TSM or TDM strategies? Are there other strategies already in the pipeline that if they went ahead of this project might change or eliminate the need for the project given changes in predicted area demographics and traffic patterns that have been observed in recent years? You don't know because the FEIR hasn't done its job as an environmental document and addressed these questions. Instead, the EIR has essentially stamped its little feet and refused to analyze any alternative other than the 110-foot right-of-way. That's required some pretty creative and entertaining analysis on the FEIR's part to screen out all the other possible alternatives. I've detailed the problems with the contortions in the analysis in a comment letter currently buried in the bowels of Appendix C of the FEIR, but that hasn't stopped the FEIR from headstrong refusal to include any real alternatives analysis in the document. However, you as City Council has the power to ask that the FEIR do its job and address this most basic question. What would be required to avoid the housing and historic resource impacts of the project? What would be required to better balance transportation and neighborhood needs as Bakersfield moves into the future? Require that the FEIR include real alternatives analysis. Don't certify an FEIR that doesn't answer these basic questions. Thank you.
Good evening. Please identify yourself, give us your name and your address.
Good evening, council members. My name is Judith Hahnemann, and I live at 2405 Alder Street. To keep this brief, basically, I'm asking each of you to look inside of your hearts. Did you read this document? Did you do the research of the supporting documents that were referenced? I personally have done much to do research and to try and educate myself. Yes, it is a technical document, and it does refer you to numerous other volumes. To get a deep understanding of what's being quoted within the document, it takes hours. We have been given just 10 days. I'm assuming and I'm hoping that some of you have taken the liberty to read the document, but to have a deep understanding, 10 days is just not enough. Thank you.
Are there additional persons present who wish to speak in opposition to the staff recommendation? Please identify yourself with your address and proceed.
Good evening, council members. My name is Valerie Munoz. I represent Frank and Rose Munoz and Rod Munoz at 2200 A Street. Don't misunderstand the people of this community. The majority of people in this community value change and value progress. By paying taxes and being mindful of giving back, the majority of people in this community proactively contribute to the idea that we are a growing community. The majority of people in this community are saying loud and clear, pick an alternate, less destructive route. However, there are a small group of people who have separated themselves from the Bakersfield community and made themselves exempt. What is progress? Progress is eliciting ideas and promoting communication, acting in the best interest of the people in this community. This small group of people are not interested in Bakersfield's progress or evolution. It's become evident it's just the opposite. They want to stop communication, stop progress, by removing our options and our alternate routes. As a result, there's a cost to our health. By resurrecting earth that hasn't been touched in almost 100 years and exposing not just Westchester, but all parts of the community in Bakersfield to potential illness. So there's a cost. There's a cost to our health. There's a cost to additional taxes we may have to pay when the other side tells you that 24th Street's going to be beautified. Well, who's going to pay for that? So there's a lot of costs associated with this that the community is going to have to pay for that needs to be said. So just because you are going to hear from the other side last, don't let their warm and fuzzy feeling distract you from the reality of this project is big and it has major consequences. Remember, we, the majority, are standing here before you to invite you, the leaders, back into our community. Respect the people who have put you here in the first place and properly represent the voice of the majority. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Good evening. Please identify yourself with your address and proceed.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and City Council and staff, my name is Vanessa Van Gel. My address is 2224 A Street, Bakersfield, California. Good evening. Having dedicated the last 4 years to stopping the widening of 24th Street, I believe this retrograde project is unnecessary and a waste of millions of taxpayer dollars. In February 2014, the majority of our City Council approved the final environmental impact report, ignoring the voices of your constituents, who by a large majority opposed this project. May 18th, this evening, will present you, our council members, with the opportunity to reconsider your position of approving this project and in turn fulfill your oath of office by representing the will of the people. Based on reading, studying, and analyzing thousands of pages of EIRs and separate studies, it is my opinion that the May 2016 FEIR is flawed, defective, inaccurate, and conclusory. It is based on old data, assumptions, and predictions with very little supporting documentation. In addition, it is riddled with CEQA violations, as evidenced and itemized by 129 comments submitted by Susan O'Carroll, PhD, of Pareto Planning. I am in full and complete agreement with Dr. O'Carroll's findings and conclusions. Thank you.
Let me ask now, how many more persons are present who wish to speak in opposition to the staff recommendation? Please raise your hand. Okay, it seems like we've received all of the statements from those who wish to speak in opposition. Now I'm going to ask for those persons present who wish to speak in favor of the staff recommendations. Persons wishing to speak in favor of the staff recommendation. How many? Okay. We'll proceed, but I ask all of you that want to speak to please stand in the entryways so we can move this process quickly. Okay? Who wants to be first? Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed with your address.
Thank you, Mayor Hall, council members and staff. My name is Wayne Kress. My wife, Leslie Walters, and I have lived in Westchester at 2224 Myrtle Street, and we've lived there 29 years when this whole effort first started. It's now been 33 years. Proposals to widen 24th Street have been coming out regularly for a lot longer than that, however, and every one of them has fell by the wayside because of lack of funding. So when this proposal came along, it came with funding. That's mostly why Leslie and I supported it from the beginning. We also viewed it as an opportunity to do more than just widen the street. We saw it as an opportunity to beautify the gateway into downtown Bakersfield, which had fallen into such disrepair over the years as to be an embarrassment. So Leslie and I conditioned our support on adding landscaping, which has now been designed into the project. We also saw it as an opportunity to do something about the insanely unsafe traffic speeding through our neighborhood during evening commutes. So Leslie and I also conditioned our support on adding cul-de-sacs that would cut our street off from 24th Street. A couple of items to note about those cul-de-sacs. The city demanded the cul-de-sac streets demonstrate the support for the cul-de-sacs by obtaining 100% approval from the homeowners along those streets, and we did. The city also required that homeowners at the corners of 24th Street deed to the city enough land for the cul-de-sacs, and they did. In a few cases, neighborhood residents actually bought the houses in question so this could happen. That's quite a demonstration of commitment. The cul-de-sacs are now in place, and the neighborhood loves them. Taking them out now would be a travesty. Our neighbors and we are glad the recirculated final EIR recommends that they stay. What else came along with the project was opposition, and at first it was quite energetic. When Leslie and I met neighbors while working to learn more about this project, we spoke our vision for what this project could mean to our neighbors and for our neighborhood. We learned many of our neighbors felt the same as we did. A lot of them just couldn't see it from what was originally presented. Some refused to see it and still do. But those of us who did see it came together with some energy of our own. We produced an effort we called Do It Right, Do It Now, and we named our vision the Westchester Parkway. This vision was supported by an overwhelming number of neighborhood residents, as evidenced by the Do It Right, Do It Now petition we delivered to Caltrans, which is now included in the EIR. Leslie and I are also pleased and relieved that the recirculated final EIR reached the same conclusion as the original final EIR, namely construction of Alternative 1 or widening 24th Street to the north. We urge you to support this recirculated final EIR, so please vote tonight to approve it, hopefully unanimously. The closer to unanimity your vote is, the more favorable I would expect the follow-up judicial review to be. Also, I'd like to know how much the city has spent defending itself or fighting the Citizens Against case. Thanks for listening.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed with your address, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Bart Hill. My wife and I have lived at 2231 Pine Street for the past 33 years. About 25 years ago, I remember this effort distinctly. We were going to widen 24th Street, and there was a big push, and I fought it, and I was part of the organization that fought it and really stopped it. The reason was it did not address the health of the neighborhood. And as those of us interested in downtown renovation know, the health of a downtown area is often contingent upon the health of an adjacent, well-kept neighborhood, which is something Bakersfield has. And you must address the needs of the neighborhood because it's key to our redevelopment efforts downtown. The current plan we have, I'm in favor of. It addresses the neighborhood, cul-de-sacs were put in, it creates a gateway to downtown, as Wayne said, a well-landscaped gateway. And there really is not a beautiful entrance to our terrific downtown area that continues to improve. It's not California, it's not Brundage, it's not coming off of 58 up Chester. This is it. This is our opportunity to say, welcome to Bakersfield. I'm very much in favor of it. I think we also should think about, this is still not a connection of Highway 178 to 99. They want to connect. They're too close. It's a Band-Aid. 50 years from now, we'll probably be standing here. I won't be standing here, but we'll be standing here talking about the same thing. Gee, I wish we had connected it at that time. As we thought 30 years ago, and I still feel today, the connection is Golden State, which would now go by our new high-speed rail station. Freeways need to connect, and if we don't think about that way down the road, I think we're short-sighted. But the current plan works for me, and it works for my wife. Thank you.
Good evening. Please identify yourself with your address and proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Nick Ortiz, here on behalf of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce, located at 1725 I Street in Bakersfield, California. And as you know, the Chamber is a business organization representing approximately 1,100 members who collectively employ over 65,000 Californians. I'm here to express the Chamber's support for the 24th Street Improvement Project and urge your council to certify the environmental impact report and approve the project. The 24th Street Improvement Project does not just affect downtown residents. It is a vital local project to increase regional connectivity and mobility. This project will ease traffic moving out of downtown, and furthermore, the improvements to 24th Street, along with the city's other road construction projects, will provide greater capacity to move traffic both east and west. It will also reduce congestion, especially related to heavy trucks, providing air quality benefits to the region. The Chamber has a long history of supporting efforts to widen and improve the 24th Street corridor, and by supporting this project, we affirm not only our longstanding position that this key transportation facility must be modernized. The updated EIR now includes the planned Tree Street cul-de-sacs, as well as additional review of project alternatives. These additions to the already robust environmental review ensure that the public and council have a wealth of information to utilize when you consider this project. The inclusion of additional analysis around project alternatives demonstrates that the project is environmentally superior and not only meets the CEQA guidelines, but is also the best way to achieve the project objectives. The Chamber appreciates the opportunity to provide comments on the EIR and the project, and again urges your approval. Thank you.
Good evening. Please identify yourself with your address and proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Scott Cuney. I reside at 2310 Elm Street and have lived there for 11 years now. It was 11 years ago that the homeowners of Elm Street brought forth to this council a petition for what was to be a temporary cul-de-sac in anticipation of this project that we're talking about here this evening. So it has now been 11 years, and we're still in that temporary configuration. And I want to suggest to you, this is your opportunity to really make a huge improvement to the city of Bakersfield, not only for the residents, but as was just mentioned, for the entire downtown community. There's been some discussion about, well, what do these cul-de-sacs provide to the community? I've got firsthand experience what they provide. They provide a huge improvement to the livability of the families that are in the community. It allows for people to safely walk the streets along with their neighbors and friends. It allows children to be in their neighborhood without fear of extensive traffic and danger. It allows really for the growing of a community in its entirety. And this is the opportunity that has now been integrated into this project after considerable hard work by the city management, by their expert consultants for now 11 years. You've worked very, very hard to come to this juncture. It's not been easy. You've been faced with tough decisions. But I think this is your opportunity to move forward, not for this point in time, but for years into the future. And we really appreciate and hope that you'll take all of this hard work and approve the project as now improved and recommended by council, by the staff. Thank you.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and give us your address and proceed.
Good evening. My name is Lila Pankey Ray, and I live at 2301 Myrtle Street. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I support all of the comments in favor that have spoken before me. I just want to make two additional points. The first of which is emphasizing the safety factor, both for those of us that live within the cul-de-sacs. I have young children myself. I have nieces in the neighborhood. We have lots of friends with young children. And it is a blessing to the community that we walk to First Friday with our friends and we are able to enjoy that part of our community and support our downtown businesses. And in addition to that, the safety that we need as a result of this proposed expansion on 24th Street. This city has grown exponentially in the 40 years that I have lived here, and we've seen growth on the east and we've seen growth on the west. And 24th Street is an area where it gets shrunken down and it is dangerous for cars passing through. And a friend of mine just last week was in an accident in rush hour trying to cross 24th at Oak Street intersection. So we need to address the safety issues with our growing community. The second factor is the expense, and it is frustrating as a taxpayer in this community that we have had to spend our taxpayer dollars to defend this lawsuit. We've seen the grounds of an appeal already set forth from out-of-town attorneys that are being paid for with taxpayer dollars. So that is an unfortunate fact that we have to face, but I beg you as the City Council to act on behalf of your constituents who have clearly spoken in favor of this by the overwhelming comments received in support of the revised EIR. So I urge your support this evening. Thank you.
Good evening. Please identify yourself with your name and your address.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Bernadette Root. I live at 2307 Cedar Street. I live on one of the tree streets where the cul-de-sac exists. And I'm telling you, our street loves the cul-de-sacs. We spent many meetings down here. Cedar was one of the last streets to get the cul-de-sacs. It has made such a difference. We love, love, love the cul-de-sacs. And we urge you to vote in favor of this report. We really, really want to keep our cul-de-sacs. We love downtown. I moved down there 15 years ago. I wouldn't live anywhere else. And I think it's a blessing that we have these cul-de-sacs and that we have the funding to do this project. We need to do it now. So I hope that you guys vote in favor of the project. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed with your address.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Tyson O'Brien, and I live at 2330 A Street on the corner of 24th and A Street. I've lived at the residence since almost 30 years. When I was in the 4th grade, I moved in that house. And I've always had a fear because I thought I was going to get hit by a car living there. Cars have went through my front yard. They ran into my street. Even when they put the cul-de-sac, someone still drove through my front yard to get through. So now that we have the cul-de-sacs, I'm very thankful that they're there. My family has benefited. I have a 5-year-old son that, I still don't feel 100% comfortable because there is a lot of traffic every day. 4 or 5 o'clock, I can go out and shake somebody's hand because they're, I've had people come by, talk to me, give me the middle finger, you name it. I'm next door to that street. And now that the cul-de-sacs are there, I let my son play out in the street. I don't have to worry about cars hitting me or him or anyone else. And it's been really a blessing. And those that have spoke in opposition, I know their faces. Some of them, you know, I don't have any problems with them personally, but I don't know them. I do not know them, and I've lived there on that street since I was in the 4th grade. They didn't speak to me when I was a child, and they really don't speak to me now. And there's only, from what I've seen, you know, I think you said 74% are in favor, and there's 12 people that are against it. And those that I see that are against it live on the same street as me. And they don't live on that, they live on the opposite corner, and they don't deal with, they've never had a life that I've had to live. So their perspective is not reality, in my opinion. I just want to thank you once again for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Are there any additional persons who wish to speak in favor of the staff recommendation? Persons wishing to speak in favor of the staff recommendation. Good evening. Please identify yourself and proceed with your address.
Dr. Randall Beeman, 2330 Myrtle Street. I'm a renter. I do not own my property. I live right adjacent to 24th Street. I would like to reiterate what my former student Tyson just said. There are parts of the day where I could walk out and sell oranges and lemonade probably. It's totally backed up. But something that hasn't been addressed, and I wrote to Mr. Tandy about this last year, and he immediately wrote back, is that when traffic is flowing, the speed that people take is way above the speed limit. And it's very dangerous, and I feel sometimes like Tyson, that eventually I'm going to be sitting there eating dinner and a car is going to run into my dining room. And so I think that the project is important for safety reasons, as well as all the other reasons of commerce, efficiency, the future of the city, all of the attributes that are obvious to, I think, most of us. And I do reiterate again with Tyson that I appreciate the other point of view. As a historian, I'm trained to see all sides of an issue, and I do think that for the sake of progress for the future of our wonderful city, which I've decided in retirement to stay in the rest of my life, thanks to my beautiful wife's decision-making. And we just want to make sure that we don't become like Los Angeles and have a gridlock in the middle of our city every day. So thank you for your time.
Are there additional persons present who wish to speak in favor of the staff recommendation? Persons wishing to speak in favor of the staff recommendation. This concludes the 15-minute period for comment for those wanting to speak in favor of the staff recommendation. Now I will turn to those who spoke in opposition. The 5 people that spoke in opposition, do you have rebuttal statements that you'd like to make? And you have 5 minutes.
Jamie Hall here again. I hear a lot about the cul-de-sacs and the beautification of the neighborhood, and I just want to emphasize that this isn't a one or the other thing. You don't have to accept the widening of 24th Street and the destruction of 23 homes in order to install cul-de-sacs and get landscaping. This is a decision the city council can make. And so this has really been a travesty, to be quite honest, is that this has sort of been kind of, a flaw here in thinking that you have to accept this in order to get that. And so this isn't the cul-de-sac project, and this is the 24th Street widening project. And the other thing that I want to talk about is that really what we're here to do is not to ask about, how we feel about things. This is a decision about whether or not this particular document is legally defensible. So we have to make a decision here. Based on all the evidence before you, do you think that this document is going to survive judicial scrutiny? And what we're trying to ask, and I just want to reiterate this just to make sure it's fully clear, is that you think about alternatives to this project. You might be able to achieve most of the project objectives, still get the cul-de-sacs, still get the landscaping, and make the citizens that are opposed to this project happy by making tweaks to this project. You don't have to be purist about this. You don't have to be an absolutist and accept, I want 100% or nothing. And that's really what's happening here. We're saying, there's some alternatives here. We can maybe not widen it as much. We can do signal synchronization. There's other things that we can do. We don't have to be purist and absolutist about this. And what you're asked to do is balance these issues. We're going to weigh the environmental consequences with the, and if there's a reduction in the traffic flow, you have to ask yourself, well, in the grand scheme of things, does that make sense? And finally, I just want to know, want you to know that this is a project that's against the general trend. The general trend is to install traffic calming measures, not street widening. So there are actually references to this project on urban planning blogs, and people are just kind of baffled about it. But with that, other people would like to speak in opposition.
Of the 5 individuals that spoke in opposition, do any of you have any further rebuttal statements you'd like to make? Seeing none, I will go to those who spoke in favor of the staff recommendation with rebuttal comments. 5 minutes.
I just want to say, the attorney is accurate when he's talking about this isn't a cul-de-sac project. As a matter of fact, having lived in Westchester for 45 years, the crime has increased ever since the cul-de-sacs have been erected. They're not the prettiest things, but that's beside the point. For the most part now, after speaking to several city police officers, they're frustrated because they can't go from the north side to the south side. They have to actually call extra help and take away from other calls to cover the perp that goes from one side to the other because they can't get through anymore. So realistically speaking, there hasn't been a decrease in crime. Crime has worsened because of this. So I just want to say that please consider the alternate routes. That's the reasonable and prudent thing to do. Thank you.
Munoz.
Thank you. Munoz. Valerie Munoz.
Are there additional persons who wish to rebut for those who spoke in opposition? Okay, seeing none, are you coming forward? Please hurry. Now remember, we're to the point where we're rebutting those who spoke in opposition.
Okay.
All right, please proceed. Give us your name.
Judith Hahnemann, 2405 Alder Street. I absolutely recognize the issue of safety in the cul-de-sacs. I'm actually for them. I think while the architecture isn't conducive, if it makes people's lives safer on those streets, great. The counter argument is, I'm going to be on the corner of this. You just heard a resident say that lives on the south side how cars have gone across his front lawn. That's going to be what I'm going to be facing. So there are counter arguments around safety and consideration of the impact of when those houses get taken out. All of those residents are now going to be put in the same kind of jeopardy. Thank you.
You have 45 seconds to conclude your rebuttal statement. Please proceed.
Okay, wait.
Can we clarify
please.
where we are, please?
May I have a word with the mayor? Mayor, I think this last speaker, Ms. Harneman, she was actually speaking in rebuttal, so I think you want to speak on the other side.
Correct.
So let the mayor just ask if there's anyone else.
I've made it very clear of what side I'm asking for now, okay? I'm asking for those who spoke in favor to rebut those that spoke in opposition.
I understand that, but I just want to clarify for the record that Ms. Harneman was on the other side. You asked if she was coming down, and she was, and I don't think that she heard you.
Are there any additional persons who wish to rebut either side, for or against? Please come forward.
Do I need to restate my name? My name is Lila Pankey Ray, and I live at 2301 Myrtle Street. And I just want to address a couple of the statements of the Beverly Hills attorney that we did address in our support, that the widening is essential to the safety of our community. And those who do not live in our community can't speak to the growth that we've had over the last 40 years because they're not the ones that see the traffic backing up. And it's a shame that we're having to spend our taxpayer dollars to defend these lawsuits instead of going forward with the progress that we need for the growth of our community. Thank you.
Hello again, Wayne Kress, 2224 Myrtle Street. I just wanted to add on to what was just spoken concerning the attorneys that parachute in from out of town and tell us to dismiss our feelings. We're the ones living here. We're the ones that have experienced the good, the bad, the ugly. We're the ones that are trying to design a solution for this. And for me to pay him to come in and tell me that my feelings don't matter, that's the travesty. You guys should all be ashamed if you listen to that. Thank you very much.
This concludes the public statements on this hearing item. I will now close the public hearing and return to council for comment and action. Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. I am hoping that my colleagues up here spend the time to listen to what I have to say. It's going to be lengthy, so I'll warn you right up front. City Clerk, would you mind putting in my slide presentation? I think the first question we have to ask is, why are we here? First and foremost, we are here to either certify or reject certification of this recirculated EIR. That's the most important thing we're going to do tonight. I don't know that it's necessarily so much if you're for or against this project, but has this document, this recirculated EIR, met the specifications of CEQA? And when it gets submitted back to the judge, is he going to look at what has been done by the city and say, yes, you've completed what I asked, or no, you still have not completed what I asked? Next slide, please. So let's talk about what the rules are. The rules are taken from the CEQA statutes. This is 15088. And in under C, when you are giving comments, response comments to anybody who made a comment, there must be a good faith, reasoned analysis in response. Conclusory statements unsupported by factual information will not suffice. Now let me read to you in this document exactly how the city defines their responsibilities. The city defines it as this: in accordance with CEQA guidelines section 15088.5 F2, the city needs only to respond to those comments that pertain to the revised recirculated portions of 2015 DRI as set forth herein. Let me be more specific, because in response to the comments, they again talk about 15088.5 F2, and they actually quote it saying this: the lead agency may request reviewers to limit their comments to revised chapters or portions of the recirculated EIR. The lead agency need only respond to 1, comments received during the initial circulation period that relate to chapters or portions of the document that were not revised or recirculated, and 2, comments received during the recirculation period that related to the chapters or the portions of the early EIR that were revised or recirculated. Now that gives them the ability in their minds and in their definitions to eliminate things that might have been commented on, especially things that would be of the original text in the 2012 draft EIR, such things as population growth in Bakersfield, and things like the city resolution about the installation of cul-de-sacs. I think that's very important, because they are using this as a filter mechanism to completely eliminate things that they choose not to respond to. Next slide, please. Now, what supersedes 15088.5 F2 is 15088.5 F. And it states, when you consider those two options they have, that in no case shall the lead agency fail to respond to pertinent comments on significant environmental issues. So if there is a comment made that is outside where the city wants to comment on it, if it has a significant environmental impact or an issue that it addresses, the city is required to respond to it. They do not have a choice. Next slide, please. So the city put this document together, and they had what's called master responses. And I'm not sure if my colleagues have taken the time to read this or not. And you know, I will urge them, if you have not read Ms. O'Connell's piece, take the time. If you haven't read it before tonight, I think you should table this and take the time. What she has to say is extremely important. But anyway, they have master responses, and what it is it's a way of kind of covering a lot of bases with one set of master response, one master response, and then whenever anybody makes comment about a different alternative, they can just say, well, we addressed that already, and refer the person back to that. So for master response number 18, this is on the alternatives. They say for the 24th Street Improvement Project, the potentially significant unmitigable impacts that could be addressed via an alternative are parcel acquisitions, relocations, and impacts to historical district. Thus, valid alternatives would generally be those that achieved substantial relief from projected future traffic, congestion, and required fewer parcel acquisitions in historic district than would be required of the project. Now we're going to really, I want you to think about that. I want all my colleagues to almost memorize that, because that's part of their definition of the alternatives. Next slide, please. I want to talk about their master response to what's called the Hageman flyover alternative. Next slide. Now this comes, every time you see the Appendix C responses to comments on the recirculated EIR, these are quotes from the actual document that we were given 11 days ago. And of course, this is their comments. The actual original document we got quite a while ago, and everybody had the opportunity to make comments. So these are the responses to those comments. And they say that the extension of Hageman Road to Golden State Avenue is a key element to the overall transportation improvement program for Metropolitan Bakersfield. The Hageman Flyover Project is included in the adopted Kern Council of Governments Regional Transportation Plan, and that's the Sustainable Community Strategy Kern Council of Governments. I'll have you note the date on that is 2014. Now the fact is, the EIR that we approved that was challenged was certified in 2013. So I'm not sure how they are being able to now say it's a key element when the responses that we got back in 2013 at that time said it was a key element. So again, we're evaluating this document as to its accuracy, and this brings into question the answers that were supplied in the original. Next slide, please. Now, they do reference something that over the years, if you've ever watched me or listened to what I've had to say, I have quoted this particular study many times, and actually in this document, they quote it also. This is the Route 178 corridor study that was done in 1986. And they call the North Alignment Alternative. In terms of function, this alignment would connect Northeast Bakersfield with SR 99 and Northwest Bakersfield. According to forecasts prepared by Caltrans, the northern alignment would divert approximately 15,000 vehicle trips from 23rd and 24th Streets corridor, which by the year 2010 would be carrying some 60,000 vehicles per day. By way of comparison, 23rd and 24th Street currently carry 43,000 vehicles daily. Now, the way I read that is they're saying that they did a study, and the study said in their forecasts that if you were to have the Hageman flyover available today, it would take 15,000 cars off of 23rd and 24th Streets. Now, if you want to interpret it a different way, you could say, no, they're saying that, no, it's in 2010 that they're saying it would take 15,000 cars. But let's go to the next slide and see what the response to the comments on the recirculated EIR were. Daily traffic volumes along 24th Street in the year 2035 for Bill Hageman Road Extension alternative are forecast to be 13,000 vehicles per day lower than the no-build alternative. Stated in another way, the traffic volumes along 24th Street would be 13,086 vehicles per day higher than in 2035 if Hageman Road Extension was not constructed. The forecast model predicted a daily volume of 102,058 cars or vehicles on 24th Street to the west of S Street under the no scenario build, which would be 12.8%, 100,000 into 13. Now, the reason that they did this response was because I questioned in the body of the document that we originally got where they came up with a 13% decrease in traffic on 24th Street if the Hageman flyover were built, because they gave a reference and there was no actual reference in the document that matched what the number that they said. So this is in response to one of my questions about that document. Next slide, please. So let's review this. Hageman flyover alternative in 1986, if you believe that that forecast was for 1986, that 15,000 cars a day would reduce the 43,000, that's a 34.9% decrease. In 2010, that'd be a 25% decrease. But they're saying in 2035, that same 13,000 cars only gives you a 12.8% decrease. Now note, think about this very carefully. Their forecast is that in 2035, there's going to be 102,000 cars going on 24th Street daily. To my knowledge, I don't think it'll take that many cars. So I'm not sure who made that quote or who made that forecast, but it seems pretty outside the realm of possibilities. Keep in mind, that'd be 4,252 vehicles per hour. That actually exceeds our peak hour traffic today. And we'd have peak hour traffic 24 hours a day. I don't buy that. The other thing is this does not speak highly of our educational system, because if this were true, that would mean that 90,000 people in 2035 are not smart enough to take Hageman flyover, that they'd continue to take 23rd and 24th Street every day and be in a traffic jam. Next slide, please. Now here's their comment about those numbers. This volume of diverted traffic, the 13,000 vehicles per day, is reasonably consistent with the results of Route 178 corridor study that was published in 1986. That study considered, and this is in quotes, northern alignment alternative for a freeway that would run along, above, or adjacent to Golden State Avenue from SR 178 to SR 99, or State Route 99, continuing to 7th Standard Road, and then running west to Interstate 5, I-5, as a freeway. Now let me show you a map from the actual 1986 Route 178 corridor study. Next slide, please. What you see, and I've outlined it in yellow, it's been highlighted. This is what this study showed as the actual northern alignment. You'll see that it comes Crosstown Freeway, it goes up the 204, or the Golden State, it jumps over the 99, somewhere in the vicinity of Hageman flyover. So, next slide, please. So this is the actual document, this is the actual quote from the 1986 178 route corridor study, and it says the northern alignment alternative would be, this alternative would involve constructing a freeway along, above, or adjacent to Golden State Highway between Union Avenue and State Route 99, west of State Route 99. A freeway along this alignment would connect to a northern west side highway alignment in the vicinity of Hageman Road. There is, in this quote, which this document says is a direct quote, there is no mention of 7th Standard Road or I-5, and I believe the suggestion here that they're stating is because in 1986 the population in the northwest was very small, about 12,000. So what they're advocating is that maybe that there could be a highway or a freeway that jumps over 99, maybe take Hageman Road and do that, because in a 2002 master plan, if you've ever looked at that, originally there was going to be a north-south freeway to the west of Bakersfield. It would come off of the 99 freeway somewhere around maybe Panama Lane or Taft Highway. It would go to the west of Bakersfield, and it would be the northern connection up to 7th Standard Road, which in that master plan, 2002 master plan, was going to be the nexus out to I-5. I believe that might be what they're referring to, but again, next slide, please. Let me remind you, these are the rules. The evaluation of and response to comments. There must be good faith, reasoned analysis in response. Conclusionary statements unsupported by factual information will not suffice. And I think I've demonstrated very nicely that in this document, in these comments, there's no good faith statements, and there's conclusory statements that are unsupported by factual information. And I think that there is a question as far as the regional analysis and response. Next slide, please. So let's move on to another alternative, which was the one-way streets. Excuse me. This proposal was presented to the city in 2014, and after the fire department stated that it would require rerouting of their vehicles and affect the emergency response times, Bakersfield Fire Department memo of January 31st, 2014, the city decided not to consider it further. The city's traffic engineers estimate that this alternative would provide at best perhaps a 10% improvement in traffic capacity compared with 33% increase of the proposed project. See traffic study for proposed project in the 2013 final EIR. Let's take these one at a time. Next slide, please. This was originally a referral to consider one-way streets in the downtown area. It was not proposed as an alternative, the 23rd and 24th Street improvement projects. It was presented twice. Now, the first time it was presented, it was from my referral. Our former Public Works Director, Mr. Rojas, was the person that was chosen to give the presentation. I was contacted by the Vice Mayor at that time, Councilmember Weir, and I had actually made 3 referrals for that night. And I was told that through the Vice Mayor that it would take 30 minutes to give all 3 of those particular presentations. I'm sorry, a half hour for each. So we negotiated that they would take 10 to 15 minutes to do each one. Well, that particular night, Mr. Rojas spent 8 minutes doing all 3. At the end of it, I was not very happy. He did not present any of the ideas that I had for the one-way streets in the downtown area, and I asked him to do it a second time. I offered my assistance. We could get together. We could do a very good presentation, because I really thought it was important that this body of council really understood what one-way streets could do for the downtown area. Now, you have to wonder what sort of direction Mr. Rojas was given, because I'm sure Mr. Rojas was only given the kind of presentation that he was told to. But instead of Mr. Rojas giving the second presentation, Parsons was the one that's chosen to give the second presentation. Now, Parsons, again, I think I spoke to him on the phone once, but they never really sat down with me and said, what is your idea? This, as everybody knows, kind of appeared to be a big deal to the paper, and they made a big to-hoo about it because of the cost. I was never asked if I wanted Parsons to do the second presentation. Certainly Mr. Rojas is talented enough and smart enough. He could have done the presentation had he gotten better input. Parsons did the second one at a cost, I'm not sure what it was. But once again, what was the direction that was given to Parsons? Was it to give a fair, balanced presentation, and I think if you go back and look at that presentation, you'll find that it was pretty much one-sided. Let's go to the second point. Next slide, please. The fire department chief was not able to define how much travel time 2 extra blocks would affect service and exactly how long it would take. As he gave his presentation about the effects of having one-way streets in front of number 2 station, I believe, no, I guess it's number 1 station on H and 21st Streets, somehow it was going to affect their service by having to go 2 extra blocks. And I asked, well, how much extra time does it take to go 2 extra blocks? And would that really affect the service that you provide? I mean, are we going to get sued because it took 10 extra seconds to get there? And the fact is there are plenty of other cities. As a matter of fact, most of the cities in Bakersfield that are our size all have one-way streets. Santa Barbara, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, they all have one-way streets. And you know what? I'm going to guess that there's probably some fire departments that sit on those one-way streets, and I don't think they have any problems. So I took that again as a way of balancing the council against the thought of doing one-way streets in the downtown area. Next slide, please. More to the point of this document, how did the city traffic engineers determine that 10%? Where is the study for us to evaluate? This is a pure conjecture and violates sequence 15088, evaluation and response to comments. There must be a good faith, reasoned analysis and response. Conclusory statements unsupported by factual information will not suffice. On this particular point alone, this document should be rejected. Number 4, play next slide. And then number 4, there is no evaluation made on the impact one-way streets would have on signal light coordination. A subjective study would have to evaluate the increased capacity as well as the effect of light sequencing and coordination of traffic flow on 23rd and 24th Street corridor. Let me tell you a little experience that I had. The Vice Mayor Hanson, City Manager, Mr. Fiddler, Mr. Wright, both engineers, Ryan Starbuck, who is a traffic engineer, and I believe one of his assistants, and then the gentleman who runs the traffic center. We were all in the traffic center. Now, this is a beautiful thing that the city has, because we can bring up on a whole wall whatever section of streets you want to talk about. And we happen to be talking about 23rd and 24th Streets, and it was up on the wall. And I went ahead and demonstrated to them the advantages of one-way streets in the downtown area. Now, let me just be real specific, because I think everybody will understand what I'm talking about when you talk about F Street. F Street has a left-hand turn lane if you're trying to go west on 24th or if you're trying to go east on 23rd. An elimination of that particular, just that part of it, would dedicate more time for the movement of 23rd and 24th Street through F Street. Now, F Street's a wide street. You would actually get 5 lanes of traffic. Currently, there's only 2. So if there's 30 cars waiting at F and 24th to go south, that means you've got 2 lines of cars with 15 cars each. If instead it were a one-way street, it would be 5 lanes with 6 cars each. Think about how much less time it would take for those cars to go through 24th Street and then not get bottlenecked at 23rd Street, because quite frankly, 15 cars in a line at 24th Street cannot all get through to 23rd Street because there's not enough room. The same is true of H. So I'm sitting there, I'm demonstrating this to them along this wall, and what's interesting is at the end of my presentation, at the end of what I demonstrate to them, I got 4 engineers, the city manager and the vice mayor, and there wasn't one person that said one thing. They just all looked at it. Now, I think that we should revisit one-way streets, and this document should too, because it could really help to solve the problems in the downtown area. Next slide. They also went to hybrid alternatives. Hybrid alternatives are alternatives that combine 2 or more of other alternatives that, as standalone alternatives, would be incapable of achieving the project's objective. Some commenters identified hybrid alternatives but did not describe them in sufficient detail to allow meaningful analysis. Next slide. Hybrid alternatives were described as combine multiple traffic operation strategies or traffic operation strategies in combination with capacity improvements. Next slide, please. So here's my question. Isn't the preferred alternative a combination of improvements to the 99 interchange, reconfiguration of the Oak and 24th Street, widening of the tree streets with a new smoothing of the curve, and a restriping of the couplet area? Would any of these achieve the project objectives as a standalone alternative? If that's your requirement? I think the answer is pretty obvious, it's no. But let me point out to you, if you take number 1, number 2, and number 4, and number 4, I think instead of restriping the couplet area, we're not really widening the 24th in that area. Instead of restriping, I would advocate that we go ahead and do the one-way streets in the downtown area and really make an improvement on the light sequencing. That would have a huge impact. The one thing that I'm not convinced that we need to do is widening 24th Street to the north. I have never come up from my street on Pine to 24th Street and said, oh, you know what, there's no room for my car here. That it's impacted to the point where there are too many cars and I can't pull out. Now, if the lights aren't working at Oak or the lights aren't working at F, to me that's when it gets congested. Next slide. Let's move on to the master response number 16, and this is where the city excluded certain responses. Now, one of the ones that they excluded was what I'll call traffic counts or studies. The issues of traffic and transportation were addressed in the recirculated EIR only in terms, and again, this is quoted from this particular document, whether the potentially feasible alternatives were capable of achieving the primary objective of a proposed project, which is to relieve current and anticipated traffic congestion. Okay, so they're saying if you've made comments on this particular document, that it has to be specific to that. Next slide. So what does the current data show the traffic counts to be in 2016? Next slide, please. Mr. Ansalba here on page 176 makes a comment. Next slide. Here is his comment. The numbers below are for typical locations in the middle of the project. 23rd and 24th Street, east of F. The actual peak hour, now this is 2006. So these are the numbers that they used in the original document to say, what's our baseline? And it was 4,068. Now, in that same document from 2012, they say that the forecasted peak hour numbers are going to be 5526. But as Mr. Ansalba here points out, the actual peak hour traffic is only 3,702. Those are all taken just east of F Street. So, they don't want to talk about that. Next slide. If you take the 5,526, which was the forecast for 2015, and compare it to what the actual is for 2016, there's a 49% error. Now, just offhand, I'd say that if the 2016 were pretty close to that 5526, do you think that they would not want to talk about it? I think they probably would have wanted to herald about it. But they are excluding any comments about this because they're saying that the 2000, I'm sorry, please note that the actual came down to 11%. And this data is from KernCog. This is not somebody sitting there on the corner as a citizen taking these numbers. These numbers are numbers that KernCog puts out every year. Next slide, please. Now, in a separate evaluation that was done compared to the predicted peak hour traffic vehicle counts along 23rd and 24th Street for the 2015, what was predicted for the 2015, and this is taken again from the EIR from 2012 with the actual peak hour counts taken from 2014. Now, that data was supplied as a response to the current council referral, and it showed that the 2015 predictions were 44% too high. That's a pretty big error. Now, next slide. The response to Ms. Dan Sullivan here is this. The commenter cites traffic studies as a primary problem with the recirculated EIR and quotes text from the 2013 FEIR about traffic forecasts. The traffic analysis for the project was addressed in Volume 1 of 2013, see Master Response Number 16, issues outside the scope of this EIR. Next slide. Can they really rule out responding to a huge error in forecast and the fact that their own data shows that the decrease, a decrease of 11% from 2006 to 2016? Next slide, please. So let me go back to the first one. It says the issues of traffic transportation were addressed in the recirculated EIR only in terms of whether the potentially feasible alternatives were capable of achieving the primary objective of the proposed projects, which is to relieve current and anticipated future traffic congestion on 24th Street. So what year is it? 2006 or 2016? Keep in mind what they said in 15088. It has to be in good faith. Well, how is it good faith? And keep in mind, this is what the judge is going to be evaluating. How is it in good faith that you are using data that's 10 years old to say that that's the current traffic going along this particular route? I don't know. So my last comment is, what year is it? 2016, 2006. Next slide, please. So one of the things we have to consider is what is meant by congestion and why does it exist? Well, one way we all are familiar with, if we've driven down in Los Angeles, is it's called the freeway effect. It's when you try and get on a freeway and there is not enough space for your car. That is a question of number of lanes. You need to increase your number of lanes in order to accommodate the capacity. Now, the other way is there's too many intersections with traffic lights or stop signs, traffic lights with timing errors, or traffic lights that are simply out of sequence, which I think everybody understands in the downtown area. That's exactly what we have between F and M. I look at it this way. Okay, if you're driving down a street or down a highway that's 4 lanes, no problems. You come to a light, and you're in a line of 50 cars, so there's 25 cars in front of you because it's equally distributed between those 2 lanes. And each time the signal goes green, it only allows 5 cars or 10 cars to go. That means you're going to have to wait 5 times in order for you to go. That's congestion. But quite frankly, the way you got there, there wasn't much congestion at all. So I think that's a consideration as we evaluate this. Now, go to the next slide. Let me preface this. Right before the comment period ended for this recirculated EIR, there's a blog that's put out in the Westchester area. And one of my neighbors to the south side of 24th Street urged everybody to make a comment to support the findings in this draft, in this recirculated EIR. Now, I doubt that anybody read it. They just said, we're for this project. And what this person said was, we have to stop Terry Maxwell from taking away our cul-de-sacs. No, that's a total misrepresentation. That's just, I'm not going to call it a lie, but it certainly misrepresents my position. My position is not against the cul-de-sacs. I have no problems with the cul-de-sacs. Now, I put this cul-de-sacs and Uncle Jimmy. I want to tell you, my Uncle Jimmy was a brilliant guy. He never got past 7th grade because he had to work. But he was extremely smart, extremely well-read. One of the things he told me, I didn't realize he wasn't the one that came up with this, that he was just quoting somebody else, but he said, you know, when you sit down at a poker table, the first thing you do is figure out who's the patsy. If you can't figure out who the patsy is, you're the patsy. Because, you know, I truly believe that the people on the south side got played through this whole thing. And I don't mean to insult you at all. But I think of years ago when we all met at David Coffey's office. Word had gotten out that the city of Bakersfield was going to widen 24th. And there was unanimity between the north and the south. Everybody was against it. Well, somehow it got leaked, and I don't know how, but it got leaked that they weren't going to take the south, they were going to take the north. There suddenly became a group of people who said, oh, if you're going to take the south, if you're going to take the north, then maybe we are in favor of this. Well, they started getting some support. And then to solidify that that support, it suddenly became obvious that, gosh, you know what? That issue of cul-de-sacs, we could probably do something about that. So the cul-de-sacs became a resolution by this body, and we passed it. Now, I can't believe that anybody on the TRIP committee didn't point out at some point that that was a clear violation of what CEQA believes would have been piecemealing. Because as soon as you start doing EIRs in two separate places, that's piecemealing. It's a pretty obvious violation. But for some reason, nobody on that committee said anything. So they go ahead and they say, okay, we're going to approve cul-de-sacs, but you have to do them only after we start this project. Well, now, I'm not sure how it ever became an idea or how it leaked out, but why did these people have to wait? We've got a resolution. Why don't we make it so that the people on the end at 24th, they have to dedicate a certain portion of their land to make the bulbs. City wasn't going to pay for it. And that they had to get 100% of the people on that block, on both sides of the block, to agree to cul-de-sacking. Well, three streets very quickly got that done. Of course, one of them then fell out. There were other streets that were not able to do that. We even had one person on one of those streets come and say to the city council, well, how come it has to be 100%? Well, there wasn't anything said. But suddenly, once again, I don't know how, but there was a question as to why did it have to be 100%? So this council made the decision, you know what, maybe it doesn't need to be 100%. Maybe it only needs to be 75%. Now, I believe that time we got played. We should have stuck with 100%. If that's what we started with, that's what we should have stayed with. So if you ask me, if I were the south side of 24th Street, I'd go back to my original hand. I would let the city of Bakersfield, the city manager's office know that you are no longer in favor of the widening of 24th Street to the north. Because if tonight we were past that, we were to say we are no longer interested. We're still interested in doing the on-ramp at 99. We're interested in improving 24th Street at Oak, because that's a major problem. I don't know how you're going to solve that anyway. And if you want to smooth out that curve, I think you can still accomplish that, because the city does own the 3 houses that would be necessary to do that. And then in the downtown area, let's make those one-way streets. And the last thing is, let's take that money that we save and put it towards Hageman Flyover, because I truly believe it would be the 35 to 25% improvement on 24th Street. And you know what? If we did that tonight, you could start thinking about taking those K-rails out tomorrow morning. And you could think about what you're going to do to the end of your cul-de-sacs to make them look really nice. We could start talking about putting some trees and some shrubs. We could talk about starting to put some sidewalks on 24th Street and making that street look everything that you want, making it look like it is a beautiful downtown gateway. Widening 24th Street to the north is not the sine qua non for doing what you want. So I think that's accomplishable. Next slide. I'm going to make some final comments. It's pretty obvious I do not believe that this document is going to pass muster in front of the judge. And you'll hear some of my colleagues probably say, oh, Terry, you're not an engineer. I mean, I've heard it before. I'll hear it tonight. And I know the staff worked hard. And the last comment will be, you're just against this project. I may not be a traffic engineer, but I graduated cum laude with a BS in chemistry with a math physics minor, and I think any engineer will tell you that there's an awful lot of physics and there's an awful lot of numbers in engineering. So when they start throwing the numbers out, I understand them pretty easily. I don't have to be schooled in it. So I want to lay that to rest. Yeah, I'm not an engineer, but I read this completely. I know the staff worked hard. My question is, what direction were they given? Were they ever given the direction that they wanted that we expect you to give us an unbiased evaluation of these projects? Or did they start out with their conclusion and have the engineers work backwards? Because their conclusion many, many, many years ago was to take the north side. And if I work for, keep in mind, these engineers, this staff, does not work for this body. They don't work for the city council. They really don't even work for the city of Bakersfield. They work for Mr. Tandy. That's who the staff works for. This city council employs two people, the city manager and the city attorney. Now, I also know that Vice Mayor Hansen and myself, I'm not sure who else, has sat in on a TRIP committee meeting. And we've discussed this before. The committee meeting is run by a chairman by the name of Mr. Bill Thomas. And in my opinion, I don't think there's anybody in that room that's ever going to stand up and tell Mr. Thomas that they think he's wrong. So it's all a question of what direction was given. And it's pretty obvious in this particular EIR that the direction that was given was to push it through. We have timelines we want to meet. And so it's important. But that still is not our question tonight. Our question tonight is, should we certify or not certify this? Are there things that, based on the rules, they have not done? Am I against this project? I'm against wasting money. And I think to widen to the north on 24th Street is a waste of money. It's better spent on Hageman Flyover. It's better spent on completing the elements of this particular project that makes sense in the downtown, the Couplet area. It makes sense on 24th and Oak, and it makes sense at 99 for the on-ramps. I'm against wasting money on this project. Next slide, please. Now, that last slide, none of those things have anything to do with whether we should certify this EIR. Last slide. I'd like to give you two quotes. It's okay to make a mistake, and one of the most brilliant quotes that has ever been made, and it's from Albert Einstein. The sign of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Now, you may be asking yourself, who made the first quote? And I can tell you, it was my wife, Paula. And she made that quote this past weekend as we were driving back from church, because we were talking about, it's the only thing I've been talking about and thinking about for the last 11 days. And she said, it's okay to make a mistake. It's not okay to keep making that mistake. And I have been chastised, or I have been pointed to as the person that cost this city $350,000 in legal fees. I will remind you, when we were here before, I was the only one that pointed out that EIR would not pass CEQA scrutiny. And I was right. Now, if I voted against it, and everybody else here voted for it, and it went in front of a judge, and the judge said, you know what, this doesn't pass CEQA scrutiny. Exactly who cost the city $350,000? I tried to point out to everybody that it won't go through. I was not listened to, but somehow I've been labeled as the person who cost this city a bunch of money. I'm trying to save this city a lot of money, and I will guarantee you tonight that if we go ahead and certify this, it'll be over a year before it goes in front of a judge. And, you know, for the people on the south side, I hope you enjoy those K-rails. It'll be over a year. And I do not believe a judge is going to look at this document based on what I've read and based on what's in Ms. O'Connor's information, that it's going to come back in our favor. So once again, we will have spent money we didn't have to spend. I think there's a reasonable solution that keeps everybody happy. It does a lot of what the people on the south side want, and it does what people on the north side wants, and it saves the city a lot of money. And with that, I'm done.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I guess a few questions for staff based on my colleagues' comments and then some of the comments from the public. There was, I know we've turned it off now, but there was a slide where he spoke to the peak hour statistics for 23rd and 24th Street, and it was relevant to comments made by Mr. Ansalabaher. Well, you don't need to pull it up, but could staff, there seemed to be a difference between 2006 and 2016. Could someone shed some light on that, or potentially clarify that for us a little bit? Anybody?
Mayor, Councilmember Rivera, I could ask our consultant to perform the traffic study, both in the 1986 study and the current, to come forward and provide some explanation.
And if I could make a suggestion for council consideration, a lot of material came in at the 11th hour from this planning consultant yesterday afternoon. Councilmember Maxwell has presented a lot of material. We can attempt, if you wish, to answer questions tonight, but we saw the material as rapidly as you did, and so just for your consideration, ask your questions tonight, give us time to respond in writing. Close the hearing after you've asked your questions tonight and place it on the next available agenda, by which time we can go over this detailed information and provide written responses.
Okay, I'd like to maybe ask a few questions related to that. If you want to take a seat, you don't have to stand there. But don't run off yet. Just take a seat right there. So I know we received comments as recently as yesterday. I know comments have been made this evening. Is there something to closing the hearing this evening versus keeping it open until the next meeting? Is that?
Mayor, Councilmember Rivera, the hearing's already been closed. The mayor did that. So
Okay.
there's, from a legal perspective, I would strongly recommend that the hearing not be continued. The hearing is closed.
Okay.
I agree with the city manager that it would be prudent, given the nature of CEQA litigation, to allow staff an opportunity to respond to the various questions and then come back at the next available meeting with the written responses to those questions.
Okay. So, okay, given that, I don't necessarily want to put you on the spot to answer that question just yet. I'll allow you an opportunity to do your due diligence in getting back to us on that first question. Second question, can someone ballpark for me the cost of this litigation so far to the city?
Councilmember Rivera, recognizing that, of course, the court reporter and the various experts we're paying for to answer questions in the audience have not been tabulated for this evening. $1,539,105.
$1.5 million just for the litigation? Or for the entire process of preparing the environmental, doing the environmental work, et cetera?
Councilmember Rivera, those are costs for the consultant to rewrite the EIR, costs for our own legal fees. We lost the litigation, so we had to pay the legal fees of the plaintiffs. This does not, however, include city staff time.
Okay. What was the cost we paid to the plaintiffs for their legal fees?
Mayor, Councilman Rivera, if my memory serves me correct, it was close to $100,000 plus a nominal cost bill of under $5,000.
Okay. How much time would you say that represented? I'm curious if for some reason this does come back. Are the gentlemen from Beverly Hills looking at another sizable check? Similar check?
Mayor, Councilman Rivera, it really depends, again, on what the Supreme Court does when this document hopefully is certified and returned.
Okay.
The prevailing party is entitled to fees, with the exception of the city. For some reason, it never works in reverse.
Sure. Okay. So, all right. Can we come back to, or Councilmember Maxwell made some points related to staff directions. I'm curious because I know that a lot of this preceded my time on the council. When was it that this body, the 7 council members sitting on this dais, gave staff direction to begin work on this project?
Councilmember Rivera, there would be a number of ways to answer that question. As the representative from the Chamber of Commerce indicated, there has been a proposal to widen 24th Street that goes back into the 1970s. I would say, however, if you were taking the current phase, it would be sometime after the earmark funding came from the federal government for these projects, which was 2006, 2007.
Okay. So I think it's safe to say that since 2006 or 2007, you have in fact been carrying out council's direction in moving forward with this project. That's not a question. I'm just simply pointing that out as I see it. Since I've been on the council since 2013, I have not been privy to any conversations that have ever given you any different type of direction than what it appears you were given in 2006 or 2007. Since 2006 or 7, whenever the year actually was, how much money have we actually spent on 24th Street altogether? Just an estimate even.
Mayor, Councilman Rivera, I produce those reports to the council on a quarterly basis. I'd really like to have an opportunity to get you a direct number. Because again, there's costs associated with some of the properties that have already been taken, with maintenance of those properties, et cetera. So.
Okay. Well, whatever the number is, there's a point I'm trying to make. So you just took the wind out of that. Thanks a lot. But my assumption is there is
It's a lot.
It's a substantial amount of money. Is it safe to say that there's any scenario under which we will get any of that money back?
Absolutely not.
Correct. Okay. Shh. You already had your time. Okay. Okay. So if you could actually produce those numbers in writing at some point, I think that would be really helpful. I'd like to see that. You know, I feel like we've spent a lot of time this evening talking about whether or not this particular document will pass muster in court. I'm not an engineer, and I'm certainly not a judge. I am a lowly councilman from Ward 1. I do not proclaim to be able to opine on whether or not this document could pass muster. I do believe that when the time comes, that is that will be the judge's responsibility to decide. That will be the court's responsibility to decide. As far as I'm concerned, this council, this body, the majority of this body is invested in this project. I'm invested in this project. I think the city of Bakersfield is, by and large, invested in this project. And it is, in fact, way too far along in the process to, I think, even consider going in any other direction than forward on this project. You know, there's a certain element to all of this that frustrates me extensively, and that is what I think is the perfect storm we see all too often in California as a result of CEQA. We have spent countless hours, a lot of time in doing environmental work in advance of this project. I believe it's a real travesty that, and consider, let's pull out or remember the $1.5 million figure we heard earlier. The city of Bakersfield operates every year with hundreds of millions of dollars. We have a huge annual budget. $1.5 million is a small portion of that. I think it's important that we all realize that for small businesses, large businesses, all sorts of projects up and down the state who also fall victim to the requirements of CEQA, this can sometimes kill a project. This can sometimes stifle jobs. This can sometimes put people out of business. And in this particular instance, while I think we possess the ability to weather the storm and we possess the ability to comply and do everything we must do in due diligence to meet the requirements of CEQA, it's a darn shame that this particular law is used so often to stifle growth. The city of Bakersfield is growing, and I believe this project is warranted. I have the utmost respect for my colleague from Ward 2. And I will tell you, no one on this dais has spent half as much time as he has in looking at this project and preparing his thoughts. That I think is an undeniable fact. But it can't mean we all agree, and it certainly in this instance means I don't think we agree this evening. But I'm committed to this project. I thank staff for taking all the time they have and preparing the documents that are before everyone this evening. You know, I look forward to a positive response from a court. But again, that decision is made in court. I don't believe that decision is made this evening. And with that, I'll wait to hear from the rest of my colleagues.
Councilmember Weir.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll start off by saying, you know, I've heard the word travesty here mentioned a couple times tonight. The last one by Councilmember Rivera, which I would totally agree with. The first one was heard by Mr. Hall. And I take exception to that characterization. I think that is insulting, and it is without a doubt a comment that was not necessary in this presentation. The implication that we are performing some travesty here is beyond anything I can imagine. We've already talked about how much this has cost. Mr. Tandy, you know, do you have some kind of idea of, you know, it's cost $1.5 million already, kind of where this is heading, what you would expect for additional costs in addition to that?
Councilmember Weir, that's difficult to predict. We will have months in the process, assuming eventual certification of the EIR. of filing documents with the court. Assuming that's contested by the plaintiffs again, there will be another round of briefings. The city attorney can articulate this in more detail. Do you want to add?
Mayor, Councilmember Weir, I think it's a safe bet that you can take the 1.5 and you can double it.
Well, that's a little bit more than I thought. You know, and this kind of goes, you know, you really took my thunder tonight. You know, it kind of goes back to my initial thought on this is, you know, we all have rights. We do have rights. The plaintiffs here had a right to contest this. But oftentimes rights come with consequences. I've heard comments tonight about worrying about costs. Who's going to pay for this? Well, I'm telling you, you people sitting in this room and the people in this community, we're all paying for this. And so, along with rights and along with opportunities comes discretion. And at a certain point in time, this project needs to be settled. And if we have to put another $1.5 million in this, then I guess so be it. But that's another $1.5 million that's not going to improve roads in this community. It's another $1.5 million that we don't have for other options. And it's not going to come back to us. So I think we need to think about a little discretion. And while I do appreciate all the time that Councilmember Maxwell has put into his presentation tonight, I do believe he worked hard on it. I do appreciate it. But many things I believe were presented as fact tonight, and I question the factual content. And I do that because I've heard these presentations before, where I have personal knowledge that the analysis was flawed. And due to a lack of experience, a lack of training, a lack of knowledge in this field, I believe that analysis was not critically accurate. And so I hope we can move forward with this project. I hope we can get it done. And I hope all the people in that 24th Street corridor and all the people that come downtown, all the people in our community can enjoy an outstanding improvement to this community, an astounding improvement in public safety, and an opportunity for downtown to really flourish. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. I just wanted to ask staff again, Alan or Jenny, you made a comment earlier that you might recommend that we would proceed at a later date. Is that correct?
Councilmember, or Vice Mayor Hanson, yes, it would allow us the time to analyze the new materials received and provide the legislative body with a written response.
Okay, then I will make that motion that, that we continue this and allow staff to respond in writing to the questions raised tonight. The public hearing is closed, correct?
It is closed. I would just add two things, Vice Mayor Hanson. Number one, if any of the council members have additional questions or comments along the lines of Councilman Rivera, Councilmember Maxwell, or Councilmember Weir, now would be the time to put those questions on the record, not formulate an opinion, but to put those questions on the record. And the other decision that you have to make is that, you know, your next meeting, you actually have a meeting on Monday. You have a meeting on Monday, June 6th. And if that's something that you are interested in, I would ask that tonight you simply indicate to the city manager that that's the date that you want this matter to be agendized. Again, the public is here, so that would be a great opportunity to put them on notice.
Okay.
As you recall, that's a budget meeting, and I believe it starts at noon. So you could just have it worked into the agenda.
Yeah, but I understand that Councilmember Rivera may not be available that date?
No, he's not available, Vice Mayor, on Wednesday, June 8th, I believe.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that would be, I would find that to be desirable, providing that it was agreeable to my colleagues. And, yeah, you beat me to the punch as far as asking the balance of this, of the council if they had any further comments. But my motion is to continue this item and make sure staff responds in writing to all the comments tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question and a comment. Alan, the date, once again, April 2008. Is that when the council first voted on this project? Do you?
That was on Mr. Fiddler's presentation, so he is thumbing through
He
it for
is the one.
verification here.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilmember Sullivan, that was the date of the notice of preparation for the draft environmental impact report.
Mm-hmm. Okay, do you recall when we had our first vote on this project? Approximately?
Unfortunately, I do not.
Councilmember Sullivan, there was a council vote, I believe it was in 2008, to bear the weight of the TRIP program and carry through with those projects. I guess in one regard, I would characterize that as having been the trigger for this. Subsequently, there were actions to hire the consultant to do the environmental impact report and many decisions along the way with literally dozens of dates. So
Right.
is that getting at your point? Or?
It is, yes. That's when we, when the overall plan was presented and when we started this project. I believe that's my understanding. It has been mentioned again about the alternative routes. We have worked, we have reworked, we have evaluated, we have reevaluated for years on all of the different options. This isn't something new. It has been, they have been looked at, they have been studied. For the most part, and we have been through all of this again, Councilmember Maxwell, tonight. And you were elected, what year was it that you joined our council? 2012. It was only at that time that the vote of support was less than unanimous. Up until that time, just moving forward, working together, evaluating the different options, being informed of the pluses and minuses of the different alternatives, the different routes, and coming up with a time frame. And just, it has been talked about since middle 80s about improving the transportation flow. And other than working on the budget, transportation is really one of our main responsibilities. And it was only in 2012 that it became 6-1. Up until that time, it was 7-0 in support of the work being done, being open, the staff hearing our suggestions, our concerns, the public being involved. So this is not something, and now again tonight, if it had been from the beginning 3-4 in the balance, then all of this would have, to me, made more sense. But now, since 2012, it has been 6-1. So it hasn't been in the balance. And it's a little insulting to insinuate that we haven't studied it and we haven't restudied it. We haven't called staff to have questions answered. We haven't looked at maps, graphs, all of that. But at the same time, you know, we are responsible for our own votes, certainly. We have a commitment to our own votes. But to me, Terry, it's time for you to help bring your ward together and help to get help bring the city together on what has been set in stone for many years. And to still tonight put us through what we have been put through as a total repeat, even going back to reconsidering the one-way streets. We had those years ago and got rid of them. You know, they are not but it just seems, it seems a real shame to me that we're going over the same thing and still our residents are on one side or the other side as far as opinion is concerned, when it has been set in stone. It's not something that if you sway one or two of us, it's going to change anything. It's not. It's not. We have been committed to this project from the beginning, and we have been responsible for our vote. And up until the time 2012, that is the only time it went 6-1, the one that was not unanimous. So, you know, I'm just amazed that you're still on the same thing, rather than encouraging the residents of Bakersfield and encouraging them that this is an opportunity. You know, several of the people in favor, they mentioned the word opportunity. Well, we've been using that word for years. This is an opportunity. And I do feel it is evolved into something just absolutely outstanding. I think it has gotten better with the opposition that we've been working under. You know, I appreciate the staff being open to suggestions, and glad to hear the cul-de-sacs are working so well. But it's about more than cul-de-sacs. It's the entire project. And the final drawing for that we saw tonight, it is outstanding. And yes, it will be a gateway, and it will be something that we are all proud of. And it is our responsibility to work out traffic problems. And we've been working. This isn't just a real a spur of the moment type. Well, what are we going to do? Which route are we going to choose? We have been open for a long time, but we have all been agreeing that that what we're doing now, 24th Street, people like to do something direct. I mean, there are many more people in support, but it's time to bring the community together and help them get supportive and help them get excited about this opportunity that we do have. And we appreciate the attorneys coming from out of town, but everybody else, other than the two people from out of town, they are longtime residents, and longtime residents in this very, very special, precious, beloved part of town that we all love. We don't have to live there to love this area. So we have worked very hard to come up with what is going to work best for our city for the next 50 years. And it is an opportunity. So I feel I'm very committed still. And when we do eventually get, and I appreciate, it's more clear now. I wondered about how several have felt, but it's very clear now. And it's not going to change. It's not going to change. So let's start getting excited about what the plans that we have in place, and let's see those pictures again of the expansion. They're absolutely they're beautiful. What a gateway that we all, that we deserve for the gateway into our city of Bakersfield. So anyway, those are my comments, and it's really time. Help your area to get excited about it, Terry. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So let's look forward to it and look at the positive and start counting, find out when we think we can get started on it. Let's don't waste any more money. And I really feel the ERI, the judge came up, I thought that was appropriate to address the negative concerns from basically 1 to 6 votes. So it was to reconsider the negative part of this opinion and this decision, but now it's clear that we shouldn't have to go through this anymore. We should support it, and we need to hope that we have tried very hard to address all of the concerns that were listed in the judge's ruling. And I feel very good about the way everything has been addressed. The staff has worked very hard on this from 2008 when we first got started on this, but there's been a real glitch that we've had to spend many, many hours and questions that were really very unnecessary, but boy, the staff got on it and did the digging and came up with the answers, which is appreciated. That's what the staff is supposed to do. But it has been very wearing and exhausting on everyone and very expensive. So it's time to put all the negative to rest. The writing, it's in stone. The positive writing is on the wall. Let's get behind this project and look forward to it. Thank you.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know about everybody else, but I just found the last 10 minutes to be wearing and painful. But regardless, I have a question.
My turn. It's my turn.
Is there, no, it's mine. Is there something to holding a meeting at noon, prohibiting people from participating as much as they might in the evening? I know I can't be present for the June 8th meeting, but I would hate for either proponents or opponents to not be able to attend if we hold that meeting at noon on the 6th.
Mayor, Councilman Rivera, it's really a council's prerogative. We felt that given the nature of this project that it was, again, best to have all of you present, which was why Alan and I suggested Monday. If you want to go ahead and have it on June 8th and you not be here, again, that's something that we can do. Public comment at that point is going to be limited to the public statement portion of the agenda anyway. This is not going to be a renotice public hearing.
And Councilmember Rivera, if it helps at all, it wouldn't have to be at noon. We have 3 hours or more of budget material and so on. If the full council remains available, because we only ask you, I think, from noon to 4.
Okay.
You could insert this item at 3:30 or whatever, and again, I don't know whether the members provided for after 4 or not, but you can set that time as a council.
Okay. I guess I'd defer to our vice mayor, but I think our goal must be to ensure as much participation as possible. So I will make myself available if needed on the 6th, if that's the council's wish. Otherwise, I have no problem not being present for the conversation on the 8th. I'll do my due diligence in getting my questions answered beforehand. Thank you.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. I would say that I agree with Councilmember Rivera that middle of the day, I think it's very difficult. I think we all have separate lives that we lead besides this. I will also defer that if that is what the Vice Mayor wants, I'll make myself available. I'll have to make arrangements because I do have kids that I'm responsible for. I usually don't respond to some of the things that are said by my other council members, but I do want to point just a couple things out after Councilmember Sullivan's comments. Wasting money is one of those arguments that can be flipped on its ear. Wasting money to pursue something that isn't going to solve your problems is a waste of money too. There are other options that are less expensive. That's saving money. And you know, I have been involved in this process well before I was ever on this council. I live in the neighborhood. I grew up at 18th and Pine. I lived there from the time I was 2 months till I went away to college. When I came back here, I moved to this city, and I've lived on Pine Street on the north side for quite a while. I went to the scoping meetings. So when you ask, you know, when did this process start? I don't think you can say 2008, or you can say specifically, because they started talking about this and they started doing scoping meetings well before then, and I went to them. And my wife and I walked away from those scoping meetings that supposedly a decision had not been made yet, and we both were convinced they're taking the north side of this of 24th. They were forecasting it or broadcasting it at that point. No matter how much they looked you in the face, said, "Oh no, we're just trying to take information," they were selling the north side take even back then. And so I have not changed my position on that. And I will remind her I did get voted in with people, everybody knowing what my position on this was. I went to a mediation. And you know what the offer in that mediation by the people who sued the city for the CEQA violation was? All we want you to do is Hageman flyover first. Do it first, because it may mean that you don't have to do 24th Street. And I did offer to my constituents a solution. The solution is keep your cul-de-sacs, redo 24th and Oak, go ahead with the improvement on 99 on-ramp, and redo the couplet area. If you want to restripe it, fine. I think one-way streets is a much better option. Just don't widen to the north of 24th. You haven't proved in all this time that that's going to do anything to increase the traffic flow in that area, because traffic flow in that area is not the problem. So I have offered that to my constituents. I do look out for them. I understand they love the cul-de-sacs. And you know, I'm used to them now. I have no problems with the cul-de-sacs either, because I can still pull up to 24th Street any morning and within 1 minute make a left-hand turn from the north side of 24th to go east. And based on what we know in these studies they keep putting in front of us, I shouldn't be able to do that. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor Hansen.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on council comments, I'll amend my motion to continue this item till June 8th.
Do we have this motion clear? Can you state the motion, please?
Certainly, Mayor. It's Vice Mayor Hansen's motion that staff is to return, review the comments submitted, respond in writing, and the topics will come back to council for discussion and action at your regularly scheduled June 8th meeting.
That's my motion.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Under new business, resolution affirming the city's original vision for the P/Q Street property located within the South Mill Creek area.
Mr. McIsaac, do you have comments on this item?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. If I could have the clerk bring the screen back up. I do have a short presentation to share with you. We'll try to make it short in light of the hour. In March of this year, the council voted to refer the matter of the future use of the city-owned property on P and Q Streets to the Planning and Development Committee. In April, the committee, consisting of council members Smith, Hansen, and Weir, voted to direct staff to prepare a resolution that would affirm retaining the original vision for the property for entertainment and dining uses. This is an aerial view of the South Mill Creek area, basically encompass all the area from Truxton to California Avenue and from about N Street to S Street. The property in question, the city-owned property, is located right here, about 5.5 acres, and is the only large undeveloped piece of property still remaining in the South Mill Creek area. And as you can see, it sits pretty much directly in the middle of the entire area. Surrounding that are all different other uses that are separate but contributing components to the overall vision and the overall experience that was intended for visitors to South Mill Creek, including the Maya Theater, the McMurtry Aquatic Center, the San Joaquin Valley Hospital Ice Center, Rabobank Arena, Theater and Convention Center, the Marriott Hotel, and of course there is the Mill Creek Linear Park, of which there is considerable investment in, and this particular property possesses about close to a half mile of direct frontage onto that. Excuse me, and to the east side of Mill Creek, there's 3 affordable housing complexes the city has helped to facilitate: City Place, Courtyard, and Creekview Villas. Just a little bit of the some of the background and the history on that. This goes back to the late 1990s and the early 2000s when early visioning plans were prepared and recognizing the synergies between all these venues, both then existing and envisioned and proposed. Redevelopment activities in the area supported the vision for a mixed-use hospitality-based area. There were several consulting plans and vision plans that were done. Of course, the linear park being one of the cornerstones, and completion of the housing projects along Mill Creek. And for about the last 10 years, the retail-based activities that accommodate the other nearby development have been identified for the PQ property to round out that vision. This is one of the Mill Creek vision plan, and you see there highlighted at the top is the area focusing on the PQ property for retail uses, along with the housing on the other side of the Mill Creek Linear Park, and some of the representations of what that development might look like. So why are we supporting, or is it the idea to continue as an integrated entertainment district? Why is it important to finish that vision and round it out? And why is it important for downtown? Presented here just a couple of excerpts from some publications regarding that. This is in the Downtown Idea Exchange, an article entitled 12 Strategies That Will Transform Your City's Downtown, and one of those is to create a branded downtown entertainment district. And also in a publication called Development Concepts Incorporated, in a article that was Entertainment Districts as Economic Development Initiatives, in which it was said that entertainment is an extremely important component to the contribution and activity of a vibrancy in a downtown. The concentration of entertainment uses creates a definable space, sense of space, that can act as an enormous draw for people, both locals and tourists. Restaurants, bars, taverns attract more people when clustered in a definable area rather than on their own. Integration of such uses such as cinemas, theaters, restaurants, and cafes encourages multiple consumption of entertainment-themed businesses. So that is kind of along the same lines of what the city has been attempting to bring to life at South Mill Creek. And in many cases, and I would share a few examples of these of entertainment districts and various other cities all over the United States where they have been developed to other amenities that also attract visitors, such as arenas, stadiums, and convention centers, much like South Mill Creek. One of them is in our neighbor to the south, LA Live, which has really transformed the entire South Park district of downtown Los Angeles. Of course, that is centered around the Staples Centers and incorporates a multitude of different dining options. And again, as I stated, whereas that is built around an arena, the Staples Center, the LA Convention Center immediately to the south. You have movie theaters, you have live theaters, and all those same components. Another one is San Diego Gaslamp District, also very successful. That was a little bit different than it capitalized on the revitalization of a historic area of the city that had become dilapidated. But here to point out, this is being the Gaslamp District. It is in proximity to the San Diego Convention Center, the Petco Park baseball stadium, and several motels in that area. So again, where all those types of uses are clustered in one area. And this is one that's undergoing development right now as we speak. The Sacramento Golden One Center will be the new downtown arena for the Sacramento Kings. And they are proposing a entertainment area around that. A little bit of a typo there, but it's called Downtown Commons or Sacramento DoCo. This with the arena, a new hotel and condominiums, shopping, and a new mixed-use area a little bit to the east on K Street. The last one I wanted to share with you has been a little bit in time talking about because I think it has some commonalities with South Mill Creek, is the Oklahoma City area called Bricktown, which this is a artistic representation of it. This is the Bricktown area. They have a new AAA stadium for the Dodgers affiliate. They also, which is similar to us, they have a canal feature which comes off of the Oklahoma River a little bit to the south. There is a railroad here, Amtrak, with their Amtrak station is located here, that separates it from their convention center and NBA arena, with the business district located over here. And this is a little bit of an aerial view. This is the Bricktown development here, the railroad and the connection to the convention center arena, and then the business district a little bit to the north. They have incorporated the canal feature, much like Mill Creek, into that with a theater, nightclubs, and restaurants, and some examples again of how that looks like. Lastly, as I said, our hope is to capitalize on the Mill Creek as an attraction to provide waterfront dining. That is something that is popular all throughout the United States, where there's just a natural attraction to people to want to be outside and be near water features. And our hope is that with a half mile of frontage onto Mill Creek, that would be something that could be achieved here as well. So with that, concludes the presentation, and for your consideration, the recommended resolution from the Planning and Development Committee.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Thank you for that presentation, Doug. You know, I was part of that committee, as stated by Mr. McIsaac, and one of the, you know, I really wanted it to come back to the 7 members, so we got out of there pretty quick. And I agree with coming back here, but there's a couple things that worry me on this thing. And that is that, you know, we're really not changing anything. I mean, my preference, obviously, is to have nice restaurants down there, entertainment down there. I mean, there's, you know, and Bob and Ken would, I think they would agree with me. I mean, this is our goal. But I'm not sure, I don't understand a resolution in some way, because what we're doing is restricting, or not restricting, but not encouraging other development. I mean, and I'm going to get crazy for a second with numbers, and so don't put anything into that. But I talked to a lot of commercial real estate guys in the last 2 weeks, okay, and they're saying to me, Harold, what happens, you know, what you're saying is that you don't want other development in there. And if somebody comes along with a really, really great project, because of this resolution, they may be discouraged from even coming to staff and looking at the purchase of that property and going forward. And I think that that's a great disservice to us as a city, because it could be a great financial gain. And you know, we're not saying don't come, but what we're saying is we're really not interested in you guys talking to us. So I can't support this thing based on those facts. I think that, you know, we go out, we continue to market this thing, and I'd love to have something happen next year, but we've had 7 years of drought, and I'm not talking about water, but I'm talking about the opportunity to sell this thing to entertainment, restaurants, this type of thing, and I don't think we should restrict ourselves from the opportunity. If some commercial development comes along that makes sense, it's going to go through the process. I mean, we're just not going to sell it to anybody, but it goes through a process, and it would be something that could work out real well for the city and for our citizens. So for that reason, I can't support this thing, and I will not. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for the presentation. I think that it made clear the reasoning behind the resolution is a short-term financial gain of selling the property does not benefit the city in the long run and create the downtown community that is possible and probable if we stick to the vision. So I'll make the motion to adopt staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, agree with Vice Mayor Hansen and won't support this. You know, for this project has oddly gotten a lot of attention and has certainly gotten a lot of our interest over the last 6 months. You know, I think the most prudent thing would be to, you know, maybe ask staff that in the event new proposals or, you know, requests by anyone to do anything at the site, given we are so interested in it and don't necessarily know what great ideas folks might come up with, that we simply ask staff to approach us anytime that occurs. I think that seems to make a little bit more sense than restricting what could otherwise be a great use of that property. So I, too, won't support this motion. In fact, I'll make my own motion and simply request that you know, staff continue to monitor this with the goal of fully implementing, you know, the great ideas you presented, Doug. I think in an ideal world that all sounds great, and it certainly looks great, and I'd certainly love to take advantage of it. So I'd request and ask that staff simply come to the council in the event that any such idea is ever brought to you, that it come to us for our consideration before we really spend a whole lot of time one way or another on any one project. Thank you.
You have a motion by Councilmember Rivera. Please cast your votes. Please cast your votes on the motion by Councilmember Rivera.
Could I get a clarification on the motion, please?
What would you like?
Clarification on the motion.
Well, my understanding is it's for staff to monitor and come to council and bring forward such ideas or offers on the property so that council can make a determination.
Oh, so that would, is that also rescinding any consideration of the resolution?
No?
Okay, great. I just want to make sure.
Okay, let's cast our votes on this item.
The motion is approved with council members Weir, Smith, and Sullivan voting no.
Okay, Councilmember Maxwell.
I just had a couple of questions. Well, actually, I just have one real question. Mr. McIsaac, you talk about restaurants on that particular property. Did you get some idea as to how much a restaurant like that would cost somebody to put together and run?
No, we did not.
Okay, because I think Vice Mayor Hansen, being a banker, will verify this for me, but banks don't invest in restaurants. They have a high attrition rate, and most money that is spent giving to somebody who's going to build a restaurant is money that they might as well just go to a toilet and flush down the toilet. So, I mean, I like your presentation. I think that's a great vision, but some of the things you showed us were actually bonds that cities put up so that they could take those areas and build them. And, you know, I'm not going to belabor it. I will let you know that I agree with Vice Mayor Hansen that I will not support this resolution. Thanks.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Doug, thank you for bringing those pictures. Those were, just gave us the opportunity to see what it could be. And this an entertainment area being continued for that, that property does go along with the long-term vision that we've had and talked about. And I would have supported the resolution, feeling that it would just give us the protection for a while, that land, protecting that land for a while, to just see if it would be, it's a one-time thing. You know, once it is built on, there's no redoing it, and I support the vision for entertainment and recreation. So I'm sorry it didn't pass. And certainly, it was a resolution, and if something came up that we wanted to change the resolution, this body could have changed the resolution. It was just giving us time to help that to be possible. So I wanted to support, I did support it.
Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I too support that vision of a entertainment complex. However, in today's environment, you know, a downturn locally in our economy, and I just want to have the economic flexibility to pivot if we have to a different plan. You know, the last one wasn't exactly a fit, but in the future, something may come to us that we're totally unaware of that could be a fit. So without codifying something with the council, I agree with my colleague at the end of the dais that, the one waving, that we need that flexibility, and if staff has something, then bring it to us and we'll decide at that point. Thank you, Mayor.
You have a motion by Councilmember Smith to adopt the resolution. All those in favor, please cast your votes.
The motion fails with council members Hansen, Rivera, Maxwell, and Parlier voting no.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Very quickly, I got a phone call from a couple of different people that own property in the downtown area, and I would like to direct for the Public Works Director to put on his schedule for the sweeping of streets to do the alleys in the downtown area. I think we want to take pride in what we have in the downtown area, although those alleys don't get swept. I don't know. I know very, very, very seldom. So if we could just kind of maybe do it a little bit more often, I think that would really help when people come downtown to enjoy the downtown area, that our alleys are also swept up very nicely. The other is I keep getting phone calls from people who live in areas of Ward 2, and I'm sure Councilmember Rivera has this problem also, since it's an older area, that the traffic, that the street lights are so far apart, they're not well lit. I hate to go to the point of asking for a presentation on them, but maybe in our budget we can start looking at ways that we can increase the lighting in some of those older areas of Bakersfield. The latest phone call I got was in the Memorial Hospital area, and you know, crime's pretty severe in that area. And this gentleman would like to see, first of all, the street lights being maintained better, because there's several of them out. But second of all, we really should start thinking about, this is 2016, there's studies all over the place that say that the more lighting you have, the more things are lit up, the less crime you have. So I'd like to see that in the future also. Thanks.
Councilmember Weir.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to announce that the Rio Bravo Country Club in Solera at Kern County is sponsoring a community update Wednesday, May 25th at 6 p.m. I will be there along with other city departmental leaders, and will provide an update on such topics as the Highway 178 expansion project, the Mesa Marin Sports Complex, bus service to the area, water, commercial development, and AB 109 and police response. So if you are interested in Ward 3 community update, you are invited. Once again, it's Wednesday, May 25th at 6 o'clock. See you then. Thanks.
Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the city manager's office, but specifically Caleb, for his outstanding support and logistical prowess in putting together the Back the Blue with the wonderful students from Liberty. And not only that, having it at our fountain opening in front of the Robobank, I mean, the fountain is just beautiful. Staff, the contractor, just did a beautiful job on that. It's really a hallmark centerpiece for the downtown area now. And I just, again, want to thank you for that, and thank Public Works for all the hard work they did on that also. Want to remind everybody that tomorrow is Third Thursday, a wonderful downtown event. I hope everyone can come out and participate. Thank you.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Says, okay, thank you, Mayor. Just, well, good. Thank you for mentioning those things. Really, the fountain is more beautiful than I expected. I knew it was going to be, and see, we've worked very hard on that plan, came up with agreement. But just the extra detail and the coloring, I just want to encourage our residents to go down to Rabobank, of course, attend some of the great events that are coming up that we have. This year, I think, is better than ever as far as the entertainment that's coming into town, and the very active schedule that we have at the theater and the arena. But look at the fountain, and we will be enjoying that for many, many decades. So we did it the right way to begin with. We didn't skimp, thank goodness, because it needs to be as beautiful as it deserves to be in the grandest facility that we have in our city, in the center of town. So I'm just so pleased. It's just exciting to look at it, and then, of course, the blue lighting that we're going to have for the next week. Lighting and Style did a great job, and as we leave, we will be seeing the blue lights on the tree right out in front of City Hall, down Chester Avenue. Also, I'm going to be driving down and looking at the lights, the trees that have the blue lights at Rabobank. And of course, it's in honor of our fallen police officers, but also to show support and appreciation for our police force. Just the strong support that you have, Chief, and the respect that we all need to have and teach our children for the generations to come, to respect our police department, appreciate what they do for us as residents, and then that helps to keep everybody safe when, you know, we just need to teach our children what to do and what not to do where our police officers are concerned. So thank you, staff, and it's a community effort. This is the first year for our Backing the Blue. I love that name because that's what we're doing. We're backing our blue, and this, of course, will be an annual event. So it's just for all the right reasons. Thank you.
Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add that tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. is the memorial for the Bakersfield Police Department. 10 o'clock Alpha Norris for Kern County Sheriff's Department, and then I believe at noon at the memorial just across from the Liberty Bell is the county-wide law enforcement memorial. So if you can make it, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Several weeks ago, when we had the budget presentations, and I made comments in and around the fire department's relationship with Hall Ambulance and what a good relationship that we have every day as we pursue the resolutions for medical aids. Tomorrow morning, we will be recognizing together a life that was saved recently by a Bakersfield resident, and because of the on-scene cooperation from the fire department and my paramedics, we saved this woman's life. And what's interesting about this is the patient taught her 2 young children CPR, and the 2 young children worked with the fire department to maintain CPR until my paramedics got on scene, and it turned out to be a life save. And so tomorrow will be a special day for us to give recognition not only to the fire department, but to the Hall Ambulance team that helped save a life in our community. You know, when I write my prayers, I try to do so that everyone may understand the value of prayers. I try to do the prayers to be specific, to show the value of what we do, the decisions that all of you make, and the need for ongoing cooperation and respect. And it disappoints me that this evening several times we kind of contradicted my prayer that I offered to open the meeting. And I'm sorry about that. I want to say also that it is always my goal with these public hearings to make it possible so that everyone can speak. I never try to restrict the public's right to make their comments. And there may be some of you that don't understand that I keep a score pad up here when we have pros and cons. So I know when people speak for and against. So when I called upon those people to rebut, I knew that they had already spoken. I knew that they were speaking at the wrong time. But I was trying to give everybody an opportunity to speak. And I'm disappointed that I got questioned on that exchange because I knew what I was doing, okay? And all of you that have been with me for 15 and a half years, you know what sensitivity I have towards running these meetings. I never like to make mistakes. I never like to have the people leaving here in this chambers feeling bad about maybe the way I may have treated them. But January the 3rd can't get here soon enough for some of you. But I'm not looking forward to January the 3rd. but always keep in mind how much passion and how much pride I have for this job. That's how I carry out my duties every day in every council meeting. There's no further comments. We stand adjourned.